Hello, hello. Hello, hello. Hello, hello. Can y'all hear me? You can hear me. Chat can hear me. Chat can hear me. My panelists can't hear me, so give me 1 second to make that a thing. Hello, hello. Can you hear me, panelists? Yay! Okay, we're good to go. I'm so delighted. Yay! All right, we're gonna come live here and we're gonna start chatting, and I'm delighted about it.
Yay! This is all the anticipation.
Yeah.
I just learned a lot behind the scenes. I think I learn a lot every time I host a panel. I'm so grateful to have Sulky just fix. Hi, everybody. Welcome in. I'm really hoping you can hear me and the panelists. I think you can.
Hi.
So,
Hello. Hi, everybody.
you should also be able to hear some like very relaxing lo-fi beats. Hopefully.
They've been chilling us out, that's for sure.
Okay, good. Yay, let's get this party started then. I'm so excited to be here. I've been looking forward to this panel all month. And the folks that are here with me today are some of my most favorite people, and I'm excited to share them with you. So without further ado, let's all take a deep breath first of all. Can we do that? Because I would like to be present in my brain for this chat, and tech trouble always makes me feel not so. But I'm Lilith, and I am queer and non-binary. I am an ambassador for this wonderful organization, and so proud to be here. I use they, them pronouns. And I stream mostly comfy cozy games on Twitch. I say that I stream games that make you feel good, and I like to chat about games and things in life that make you feel good, and so that's what brings me here today, to talk to you about books that make you feel good. And I would absolutely love to have my wonderful panelists introduce themselves as well, because just you wait, you're gonna love them.
Hi, I'm Frank, Frank the Pegasus across platforms. I primarily stream on Twitch, and like Lilith, I also stream kind of comfy, cozy games, or at least I stream games and then make them comfy, cozy if they are not. So like right now we're playing Breath of the Wild, but we're mostly Korok hunting. So it's really just a vibe. We talk a lot about mental health and body positivity and fat positivity. I identify as genderqueer. I use she and they pronouns interchangeably. And I also am an absolutely voracious reader. And basically, if you ask me what I'm reading on any given day, it's probably something different. So,
one of my favorite things to ask you, actually.
All right, I'm next. Hi, everybody. I'm Barbara Perez Marquez, or Mustache Babs, everywhere online. I'm a writer. I use she, her pronouns. I'm a queer Latina writer, first and foremost, and a hobby streamer here on Twitch. And I grew up in the Dominican Republic and then moved over to the States so I could pursue writing and have an MFA in creative writing. That is kind of where my background lies. And I write young adult fiction, both prose and comics. So you can find me actually as part of the team of The Cardboard Kingdom, which is a series about a group of neighborhood kids that play together and create awesome things with cardboard. So I'm really excited to be here and talk about queer books, which is what I do.
yay.
An actual icon. I'm amazed. Also, I think I heard you all talking about this before we went live, but your background, Babs, like, so good.
It's really beautiful.
We can do a tour later.
And last but not least.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. I'm Sarah, or Cody. I use she, her pronouns. Cody Quest on Twitch. And I stream mostly like, RPGs, JRPGs, kind of longer. Love to, play an 80-hour-long game with my chat and just be gay about it. Yeah, I love reading. Everything I read these days is queer, which is amazing because I couldn't have said that when I was growing up. So I'm just really excited to talk about that with all of you.
Absolutely incredible. I am so beyond excited to talk to every single one of you that is here today. And thank you so much for joining me for this panel. If you're just joining us in the chat and you're like, what is happening today? We're going to be talking about queer fiction with these absolutely wonderful humans. We've got a lot of things to cover. We have book recommendations. We're going to talk a little bit about our reading routines and our relationship with reading, and just sort of revel in, like you just said, Cody Quest, Sarah, the absolute plethora of queer books that are out there that we get to enjoy now. So I think I would love to start our conversation just by asking you all about your relationship with reading, and whether that has changed for you over the years. I know for me personally, my relationship with reading has changed a lot. I was a very intense reader as a kid. I did nothing but read as a kid. And I used it, I think, to escape and to just sort of find myself and explore different places. I had a kind of a tumultuous childhood, and it was a real comfort to me. And then I did this thing where I made it my identity and went to school for it, and it absolutely crushed my soul.
Yeah.
Did you also have the 10-year gap where you basically didn't read anything? Because that was me.
Is that where we're starting? Is that the gap we're all starting at? Got it.
Yeah, truly, I think a lot of us probably had that where we grew up reading and then went to school, had to read a ton for school. And then I guess people would call this a reading slump, but I feel like if you don't read for 10 years, that's just you don't read very often. But yeah, I a couple of years ago had what I call my reading renaissance,
Yes.
where I just reminded myself that reading is fun and it's not just for learning. Because I think the other thing that happened to me as an adult was I finished school and I forgot that fiction existed. I got so used to reading nonfiction and textbooks that I was reading is for learning. If you're not learning, you're not reading. And so, yeah, I just forgot that it could be something that sparks joy.
Absolutely. Yeah, I feel like I only recently got over my I would call it burnout. I think I burnt out. I think I burnt out on reading. And I only recently got over it, and I'm still sort of gently exploring it. And I think for me, the temptation to catalog and like recount how many books I've read and count in general how many books I've read, I think that's what squashes it for me. The second I start doing that, my reading goes down. And if I just make it about joy and enjoying what I'm reading, then all of a sudden I enjoy it again. It's a marvel.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think that speaks to that. I think that relation that, you know, when we learn to read, right, that's because of school. That's because you are told that you have to do the thing. And I think that all of us, you know, in different stages find that moment of like, reading is fun, and how to not commodify it, you know, to be like, oh, how many books can I read more than my friends and stuff like that. I think for me, I actually have had like a really interesting sort of like stages, because I was actually a late reader. I didn't like reading as a kid. I didn't really enjoy it. And then in my teens, I discovered fanfic, and that really just like, I was like, forget not reading. I want to hear everything everybody has to say about the fandoms that I enjoy. And I think that, again, finding that joy that you realize you can do this for fun. And then same thing, went to school, was like, no, maybe not for me. Maybe reading, not a great activity that I want to partake at this moment in time. And now as a professional, I'm like, you know, I've sort of found the balance between like, there's some reading that I have to do as part of my professional development and the professional part of my job. But also sometimes I just want to read a book just because it makes me feel nice and mushy, and just like, because I want to love something and put it in my eyeballs, you know?
I love that.
I am actually, I want to hear from Cody, so I'm going to put this on hold, but I want to ask you, like, how do you like balance those things? So like, shelf that question.
Yeah, I feel like for me, it's pretty similar to all of you. Like, I was a really early reader, actually. I started like trying to teach myself how to read because my mom read to me a lot growing up, and I was like obsessed with books. And I'd read like, like 3 different YA fantasy books like a week in like middle school and stuff, and just like tear through them, read everything. And in college, I did the whole English major, creative writing major thing. And I was like, oh my God, I'm sick of this. I like barely got to read anything I liked. It was just like, I don't know, it was exhausting, and I was just like, okay, I barely read anymore. I just like, I do homework and then I play video games when I have the energy, and like that's it. Then after college, I think I probably started reading a bit, but not as much as I ever did when I was a kid. And then I went to grad school, so again, I only read stuff for school. But I did do a master's in information and library science. So for a couple of my courses, I did like a YA librarianship course, and I got to choose just like 12 YA books that came out in the past like 5 years of my choice. They just had to fit certain themes, and then just like read them. And like that was awesome. And that kind of got me back in. And I was like, wait, there's so much stuff now that there didn't used to be. Like I was like, I'm gonna challenge myself to make all of it queer. And it wasn't even that hard. And I was like, that's new. Like it was that was really hard, back in like even college or so, to like find stuff with actual representation that I related to, especially in like YA and the kinds of stories I like to read, which are like, I like fantasy. I don't really read a lot of realistic fiction. So now, like after my master's and stuff, I think I'm kind of doing what Lilith said, which is like, sometimes reading is the thing that makes me happy, so I read a lot. And then sometimes I don't really want to, so I don't do it as much. And I'm just trying to do like, if it's reading or video games or like watching people play video games on YouTube, I just want to do the one that brings me joy, so it doesn't like turn into a chore like it was in school.
Yeah, I think it's funny that you say that, because I've realized for me that a lot of what I enjoy about it is just the stories. And I think that I've come to learn that you can get that from other places too. Like I definitely see playing a lot of story-based video games almost the same as reading. Like it's just another way of consuming a story. TV and movies, same, like there's so many ways.
I recently saw it was a TikTok that was talking about The Last of Us and the TV adaptation.
Oh yeah.
They had seen the show and they were like, video gamers, why are you gatekeeping gaming? It's so like these stories are so good. And I was like, I promise you no gamer is out there gatekeeping. Like we're all like, please play these games. We love these stories. Please share these with us. It was really funny because I was just like, stories have existed in games for as long as games have existed. So
Yeah.
it's really like silly to me to be like, yeah. But I think that's such a good point that like we can see this thing that used to just be like the only medium for storytelling, aside from just like verbal storytelling, obviously, like kind of evolve into like, now we have TV things that are written for TV or movies or games or whatever. And like, it's still kind of a story, and how that can kind of like, I wonder if is there overlap for any of you in like the types of games that you tend to play versus the stories that you enjoy reading?
Oh yeah.
It's a good question.
Dragons is the primary overlap.
And swords.
A woman with a sword?
Yeah,
I'm in.
there you go.
Easy.
Doesn't matter what the medium is at that point. I'm there.
Yeah.
But I think, thinking on that, I do agree that I think I play all sorts of games just because I think I also read all sorts of books. So I wouldn't categorize them, but I do think that the evolution of storytelling in our time, I think it's that same thing that you were saying, Frank. It's the idea that, before we had verbal storytelling and then the book was invented or whatever, right? Like historically speaking. But I think video games have found really this sort of perfect marriage in the same way that comics do, right? Like we talk about like the prose versus comics all the time. Eternal battlefield. It's not a battlefield. They're homies. It's okay. So so I think it's that evolution, and it's the realization. It's right. Like I think a lot of our generation in general found ourselves being like, video games are bad from our parents, and now we're like, no, video games are actually a great medium to introduce people to diverse stories, to present them in a different way, that if you don't want to sit and read it, you can listen to it, you can watch somebody play it, you can play through it yourself. Like that's pretty great.
Yeah, it's funny that you say that, because I feel like comics had that same they were looked at the same way. I remember
every time
I was always told, like, why are you wasting your time with that, when I was a kid? Which is just ridiculous. We know now it's ridiculous. And I think that comics are definitely like becoming more like, there's certain books that have had like critical acclaim, and now suddenly everybody's looking at them.
I remember the first time I read a graphic novel that I was like, oh, graphic novels can like be this deep. Because I think I had never encountered that before, but Fun Home by
Oh yeah.
Oh, why am I blanking
Alison
on their name?
Bechdel.
Thank you. I was like, it's like, but yeah, that was the first time I think I'd ever read something that was presented that way. That was like, it floored me. And that was like, it truly changed the game for like my own brain, because I had always kind of assumed like, oh, it's pretty pictures, therefore not that deep, but like, nah. That's not the way it is at all.
And I think it's like, I think Bechdel, right, as a voice in like American cartoonist realm, like that's something that the general public was sort of introduced pretty recently, considering her breadth of work. And then Fun Home got transported into a musical, and that also introduced people that were perhaps more into theater, that were like, hey, graphic novels were a thing, and nonfiction and autobio comics and graphic novels have had a super boom in the last 10 years. So that's something that's also still sort of evolving and seeing beyond what people think, the pretty pictures or the superhero comics. It's kind of ever evolving.
Yeah. And it's funny. This is not where I was thinking we would go with
Nope.
this, but I'm happy we're here. But it's got me thinking that like when I was burnt out on reading, I was still reading comics and I was still playing video games. Yeah. So the problem wasn't the consuming of stories. It was maybe the mode or the method. And so now it has me thinking about how much more accessible some of these mediums are. And like, if you struggle, like many people do with, reading just text, how you can enter into the pathway of reading through comics, through video games, through now audiobooks, having like a whole, can't think of the word, but they're really blossoming.
I was just going to say that a huge part of me not reading for so long, I think, was that I really kind of understood that it was always a hyperfixation and it always will be. And I have ADHD and like, oh, amazing. Turns out sitting down and doing a stationary task is really difficult for me. And it wasn't until I kind of discovered audiobooks and how accessible audiobooks could be that I really started to like read with like any kind of speed again, I guess. Like I was able to actually get through a story before I forgot what was going on and then like had to go back and start the whole thing over again. And like I will tout forever and ever that audiobooks are a great way to like kind of reintroduce reading into your world again, because I have gone from like exclusively not being able to like sit and read a book to like that is now something that like with a physical book I sit down and I will like read a book as part of kind of my weekly daily routine. And like it was kind of like easing myself back into that world through kind of allowing myself to multitask while I did it. I don't know.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's so much more accessible.
Yeah, I think the medium helps. Go, Cody.
I was just gonna say with audiobooks, like I'm not really someone who reads them so much now, like as an adult, like because I like to listen to music when I read, so it's like kind of the opposite thing. But growing up, we'd take car trips a lot, like my family. Like I have family that lives in Montreal, and we drive there. It's like an 8-hour drive to 10-hour drive from New York. So, and we didn't do like the radio or anything. We always did audiobooks, and it was such a good way, or like books on tape and books on CD. You know, when I was younger, it was such a good way to listen to stories as a family. Like that's how we did all of like the series of Unfortunate Events books and His Dark Materials, and like all of that stuff. And I don't know, it was a really nice social way to read, you know, and also like we were driving for, 8 hours. So it was a good way to pass the time as well. But audiobooks are awesome.
That sounds magical. I wish I had that.
It was great.
I think that's a good segue into a question that I'm really excited to ask, which is like, what are your favorite kinds of books to read? Do you have any genres? Is there like anything in particular? I know we've covered that like a lot of us like dragons and, sword lesbians, but other than that, what do you got? What do you like?
I am a shameful genre hopper. Like if you pin me down, I could pull up my stats right now, but like so far this year, I have read nonfiction, fantasy, like romance. I could go sci-fi. I do not stick to a genre. I kind of go with. I do have like a kind of formula of like if I read something that's like really heavy, that I will always almost always follow it with something that is just like candy for my brain, so that I can kind of decompress from whatever that was. So that I guess, but yeah. Try to make it as queer as possible all the time, but that's not always possible. So, but no, I do not have a specific thing.
Do you think there's anything that links them, or not at all? You're just all about the exploration?
I will pretty much pick up anything that is recommended to me and I have like any kind of vague interest in. I'm trying to get a lot better this year about stopping books when I do not like them. And so far I have quit 3 books.
Let's go.
Friends.
Wow.
Let's go, friends. Yes.
300% more than last year. So.
Listen, I was just gonna say, I was like, as perhaps like the working writer, I'm not sure, I don't want to say none of you are not writers, but it's like I give you permission to stop reading a book if it's not good. As another genre hopper, if it's gay, I'll read it. And if it's not my flavor, I'm not saying it has to be like bad. If it doesn't jive with you, the voice, the cadence, the storytelling, it's okay to put it down. And it's okay to not write a bad review of it because it didn't offend you personally.
Keep that to yourself.
Yeah.
Goodreads reviews are brutal.
I think it depends for me. Like when it comes to like reviewing, I almost never like write a review, but when it comes to like talking about why I didn't like a book, it is like such a personal thing that like if somebody's asking me like, hey, why didn't you like it? I'll tell them. But otherwise I'm like, it's not for it. Like it just wasn't for me. Yeah, really. The one that I just quit was queer. It was a queer like paranormal retelling of Rapunzel, but it wasn't that. And also it was just I got 3 chapters in and I was like, okay, I get it. Like, I know these, like, I could tell you the whole story and I'm 3 chapters in. So I was like, I'm annoyed and I'm just going to walk away.
That's fair.
But like on that note, something that I've found like so pleasant recently, like with just like the sheer amount of like queer books now, is like, because like for me personally, I read YA fantasy, and then I'll branch out to like sometimes non-YA fantasy. If it's queer, I'll do like maybe some sci-fi. Every once in a while, realistic fiction, but I have to split those up with like a bunch of fantasy books because that's just what I'm into. That's like what I write in my free time. It's what I like to read. It's what I grew up on. But every once in a while now, I've read a couple of like, sapphic YA fantasy books, which is like, that's my thing. That's all I really care about. And like, I was like, it was okay. Like, it didn't feel that great. And that makes me so happy, actually, because it's like, it doesn't have to be the best of the best queer stories that are out there.
Like,
there's like
there's
normal
enough
shit
of it.
now. That I'm like, oh, that was fine,
mediocre.
I guess. Like 3 out of 5, I'm 2.5. Like, it's
Let
fine.
us fail. Let us fail.
It makes me so happy. I'm like, yeah, that was like kind of mid, and I love it. Like, I'm glad
for real though, for real.
Yeah.
I'm obsessed with that. I love it. I actually feel like looking for queer books has actually made me a genre hopper, which I never was before. Like, I was very much like the dragons, the fantasy, the sci-fi. I grew up reading Ursula K. Le Guin, and so my like genres were whatever she wrote. Like if she like sci-fi, fantasy, that's it, and then I would like figure out what was related to that. And I think that ever since I've started to like really look for books with, queer stories, queer characters, it's made me really jump around. Like, all of a sudden I'm reading romance, which I never read romance. I was always just like, why do people read this? I don't get it. Turns out it's because I was a lesbian. And but now I'm like, oh, like a steamy scene in like a regular old life, like romance novel. Like, this is for me. I'm being spoken to. Like,
Yeah.
I see you.
Yeah, and I think it's also speaks to the need of those stories, right? Like, if you track down like queerness and storytelling, it's like, oh, what did we have? We had like some queer characters, Disney's first gay character times 3, and it was appearances. We were sort of glimpsed at, but then it was like queer romance is like at the forefront, and now it's like, okay, how do we tell those stories in like mid form, or just like with a magical system and stuff like that? Because I think, for me, I love a book with like a magic or like magical realism. Like, sell me that any day. Like, I don't even care if it's gay half the time. But if you write a queer one, then I'll be like, I'll champion that until the end of time, So that's just a plus to me these days.
I was gonna say, I also love when it's not like, oh, there's a romance subplot, or like there's like something going on that like, this is how we're gonna identify that they're queer, or that they're like, like gender non-conforming or something. I think I just finished the first He Monk and Robot novella by Becky Chambers, Song for the Wild Built. And it is a non-binary main character. And there's a line in it that's just like, do you have gender? No, me too. Like, I was just like, it's well established that the main character is non-binary well before that. But like, at that point, I just was like, yeah, it's that simple. Like, there didn't need to be like, oh yeah, and then like romance happened and queer identities came out as a result. Like, it doesn't have to be that. It could just be about queer folks.
Yeah,
it's so wonderful.
Same situation to me, and as we sort of, hope y'all are taking notes on the books already. But I think we're gonna be talking about them later. But Aidan Thomas's The Sunbearer Trials has like a very quick. I won't spoil, no worries. But it has a very quick, like very trans-forward moment that I was like, that's it. Like, it's that simple, that easy, that quick. I don't need an explainer. I don't need a subplot to be like, let me hammer into you how queer they are. Like, I don't need that. I just want a cool story that also happens to include queer people, that includes brown people, all of those facts. That's just like how I see the world. So why shouldn't it be in my books as well?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think kind of like going along with that, like, we are now we've gotten to a point where I can recommend so many books where coming out and like the discovery of their identities is not the plot, like at all. They're just queer, and like it's so nice to finally get to a point where like we're talking about queer stories, but it's not like about being queer, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Or books that are like on lists and recommendations that are queer, but you don't even know because it's not like the marketing of the book.
Yes.
And I'm just like, every time that happens to me, I'm reading one and I'm like, wait, really? Like, you weren't on my queer list? Like,
wait, it's gay?
Queer jump scare.
And before we switch over to something else, I have to say, because I forgot, my other favorite genre is the graphic memoir. There is something so incredibly special to me about reading. I love memoir in general, but visual.
Oh, genderqueer,
I desperately want to read that so badly.
So good.
So good.
Yeah.
I actually, like, I have a bunch stacked here because all of my recommendations are pretty much, whether it's like graphic memoir specifically or like you can tell that there's memoir there. I feel like that's my jam usually. So was there anybody in your life or any particular like moment that you can remember or like figure that introduced you to reading? I don't know if that's like, you know, something that would speak to all of you, but I sometimes get, when I ask people this question, sometimes I get really special answers, so I wanted to ask.
I have like a funny little moment that wasn't necessarily like people specific, but I grew up, if anybody watching or listening is not familiar with the Dominican Republic, it is a Caribbean island. It is actually also a Catholic country. So I grew up queer in the closet in a Catholic environment, right?
Same.
And yeah, it's like great. So that was the time, and we won't talk about that too much, but when I was growing up and I was sort of realizing that, you know, the girls are talking about boys and the boys are talking about girls, and I don't want to talk about boys. It wasn't until I started reading fanfic that I realized that the word gay existed. So it was pretty late, all things considered, to what we see now that we're able to sort of like realize as a society, that I was like, oh, two girls can kiss? Tell me more.
I love that so much.
So that's kind of the jumping. That was the jumping trampoline of like, I can read more about girls kissing each other if I read not whatever on the shelf. Got it. Let's go, internet.
Thank goodness for fanfiction.
Seriously.
Thank you, fanfic.
Did either of you have anybody?
I mean, my mom is a reader, but I don't know that is, I guess, like probably secondhand. That's kind of like what probably started my reading journey. I do have this really like cloudy memory of when I was relatively young. I was being babysat my mom was in school when I was younger, and so I was being babysat by somebody who I don't even know them. I don't remember who they were. Some friend of a family member or whatever, who could take me for the day. And I remember her giving me a book that ended up being one of my favorite authors as a kid that I won't talk about now because he's incredibly problematic. But at the time, was my favorite author. And it was the first one I'd ever read. And it was like the first time I ever read the twist of like, and you just read this book that he wrote that entire time, the end. And I was like, mind blown. And that I remember sparking like a whole thing. But I don't know who that woman was. She was just some woman who had a kid's book.
Nice.
He doesn't know.
The book just appeared on the shelf. Don't worry about it. Sometimes they do that. There's no writer. Don't worry.
So one of the most one of the like truly only heartfelt moments that me and my brother have ever shared. We have a very we love each other, but we're kind of distant, you know? But I have this very vivid memory of being a kid, and he gave me a copy of The Wizard of Earthsea, Ursula K. Le Guin. And he had written in the cover, this was one of the most, like to this day, this is one of the most heartfelt things I've ever received from him. And he wrote in the cover that I should, you know, because I was a writer as a kid. And he was like, he wrote, keep writing, period. And he gave me that book. And ever since then, I have been in love with her work, and she definitely defined my exploration of myself and the bounds that I, you know, came away from. And so to me, that's such a special thing. Like he definitely helped me find, I think, my people in books, you know? I don't even think he realized what he was doing, but
That's so sweet.
Yeah, those are the best moments. It's like they don't know.
Yeah. So do you remember, I think we've touched on this a little bit, but do you remember, or were there any sort of like vivid memories that you have of seeing a queer character for the first time, whether it's in fan fiction or a comic or a book, or any kind of, you know, medium that we've been talking about?
I thought I saw this question in your list, and I was like, I can't remember the first time. I just know that like it is now so much more prevalent that I don't like question it anymore. But I honestly can't think of the first time, and I feel like it was like as I was an adult, and it was like an already expected thing. Like it was like after I like stopped reading, got back into reading, and like that's not entirely. I don't know. I can't think of like the first time.
I mean, it's
weird
like, because memory questions in general for me, I'm like, what?
Yeah.
But like, you know, or is there like a meaningful book that maybe helped you see, like you saw yourself in and you remember?
Well, like for me, it's also hard to remember like, oh, it was the first like queer character I saw, especially. But this is funny. I didn't realize I was gay until I was like my freshman year, or like going into my freshman year of college. I was like 18, but I was very gay. I just didn't realize I was. And I realized this too when we were talking about graphic novels and stuff earlier, that even in the periods when I was like in kind of reading slumps, I read a lot of manga. Like that's the main kind of graphic novels I read. And in high school, I read a shit ton of Yuri and Shoujo Ai. Like an endless amount online, just like the fan translations of things, like so much of it. I was like, this is straight of me to only read about like girls loving girls.
So straight.
So straight.
That's normal. Yeah.
Yeah. But so in high school, I feel like it was probably like Shoujo Ai and stuff, like the girls love manga. I just read so much, like even because I was into fan fiction in high school, but I was honestly mostly into straight fan fiction, and I still, you know, there's still het ships I like. They can be cute sometimes.
They can stay.
But like it was really the gay manga that was like so much of it. And that was definitely part of it. Eventually one day, after I kind of realized I was gay, I was like, oh, I should realize that earlier, considering what I was reading. But
always that.
And I mean that there's also like that conversation that like, you know, we won't go into like book publishing in this panel, but I think that
I would though.
Yeah, but I mean the manga pipeline is real. First of all, we'll just start there. We'll keep it simple. The manga pipeline is real. I think that what Viz and like what Tokyo Pop back then were doing, and what we were doing as fans with scanlations and stuff, you know, of course, like buy and support publishers and creators when you can, but also the internet's there, so it just allowed for that exploration. I mean, to me, like I said, you know, I grew up in this environment where it was also in Spanish. I wasn't really interested in reading in my own language. I was learning English, so I actually veered very heavily into reading content in English, which then there was content and fandoms and stuff like that, you know, so I was like everywhere a little bit, and that allowed me to see those moments, like like finding Yuri manga online and reading fanfic moments. But I think really to me it became more like prescient to find queer voices.
Mhm.
I didn't care if you were writing whatever you were writing, but then finding other gay people sort of like allowed me to be like, hey, there's other people here. And you know, like there are people out there. Like I may feel alone, and I grew up sort of like really somewhat resentful of that. And you know, what better place to share this than the It Gets Better channel? But this is not planned, but it's that idea that like finding your other people, your people, to like making that connection is far more prescient to me than like who was your first gay character. It's like, yeah, but like who else shared my excitement about those queer characters? I think it's what it is.
I love that so much. I wish I had made that the question. I should have asked you. Because I do have vivid memories of my first communities that would celebrate the characters that I like or the ships that I like. And those did have a huge impact on me because it was like all of a sudden there were people out in the world that were like me. And, I did not see them where I lived because, closeted, religious, that's there. It was really special to see them like on like Tumblr,
Yeah.
Does anybody, I think maybe this is a good way to start talking about some of our favorite queer authors, or what it means to have like authors that are, writing so much, from the queer perspective. Not exactly like our little show and tell moment that we have coming later, but does anybody have any authors that they like definitely go back to or recommend to people all the time or just really love?
I think we mentioned her already, so I think worthwhile to bring back Alison Bechdel. I think that, again, the if you're in your journey of like who is a voice in queer fiction, queer memoir, I think that the work that she's done is bar none in some regards. So I'll check that out. And then I made some list of people that I really enjoy that aren't on my book list, because then it gets muddy. I was like, Lewis asked us to make a list, but I was like, then you forget people, and some books I've lent out, and then it's a whole thing. But I wanted to bring up Ethan Aldrich, just making some awesome queer fantasy books. And he's a sort of like, as writerly, as queer as it comes. If you're looking for somebody there. I know Lila's work loves their work. Trungles is making some lovely work. And then I'll talk more about her later. But Hannah Templar is on my rec list as well. And she actually got to do a graphic sort of like non-fiction retelling of Patricia Highsmith's sort of like legacy as a lesbian writer. So just linking us back there to the fiction world.
Those are all great. I'm taking notes of the ones I didn't know about.
Yeah, right? Same. I was like, where's my notepad? I literally pulled up my notes like, wait a second. I think like being a genre hopper, it's really hard for me to be like, oh yeah, I go back to this author a lot, because I don't. But I will say that Akweke Emezi has a way with words that is truly something that, like, I have other things that I'm like, I literally own other works that they've done that I cannot wait to start. But I read Pet by them, which is a novella, like a sci-fi novella, and it is truly astounding. I don't want to spoil it because it's like too short to really like kind of capture at all, but it's basically about a little girl who accidentally kind of lets a demon loose that is not a demon, and it is very metaphor for lots of things. And it has a prequel about their mother also, and that's fantastic. And I also have The Death of Vivek Oji literally on my nightstand waiting to be read. So Akweke Emezi is 12 out of 10 for me. We already mentioned Aidan Thomas, obviously. Aidan Thomas is delightful. I think we have a couple of their books on rec lists.
Yeah, we'll talk later about them.
Goodness gracious. Me thinking about like everything I've ever read. You know what? I'll stop there. I'm sure that there are plenty that are going to come up that are like queer voices. And I think one of the wonderful things that we see now is so many queer voices like writing like own voices kinds of stories. So it's really, really nice to see that.
Yeah, for me, actually, I saw my, not to be gay, but my wife said this in the chat. One of my favorite queer authors is Melinda Lowe. And she wrote like the book
Monstrous.
Ash. Yes, Huntress, Ash.
Monstrous,
Ash is like, it's like a queer, like kind of dark fantasy retelling of Cinderella. It's sapphic. And it was published in 2009. And I think it's the first published sapphic book I've ever read. Maybe. I read it in high school probably. And it was really important to me. And I like recommended it to like, or maybe I read it in college. I don't know, but I recommend it to everyone. It's an incredible book. And more recently, she's written more historical fiction, Last Night at the Telegraph Club and A Scatter of Light. And her writing is just, beautiful. Beautiful. She really, at least in Last Night at the Telegraph Club, I haven't read the sequel yet, but she really examines like butchness and gender identity and the attraction to butchness and to masked women and masked lesbians in it in a way that I see almost never, even in like queer fiction. It just doesn't come up as much as I'd like it to. So I just think she's an incredibly important writer, and I'd really recommend any of her books to anyone.
Heck yeah.
Love that.
I have that one. I've had that one on my radar for far too long, quite honestly.
All right. Get it up the list.
It up.
Up it up now.
I feel like I have this like mental list of books, and it's always like I'll have a conversation with someone and I'll be like, okay, well, I got to get this one up now, and then I'll talk to somebody else and it's like, okay, well then that's actually been, I think, the thing that has definitely helped me. We were talking about burnout earlier. I think the thing that has helped me get back into reading is just how much fun I have sharing it with other people, and not in like a I read 10 books this month kind of way, but in like a, what have you read in the past, couple of weeks that like you really loved and you're still thinking about? Tell me, because I want to read it now, like DMing you, Cody, like on like randomly on random days to be like, what sapphic books have you read recently? Like that makes me so happy. Like I have so much fun. But anyway, I didn't get to add, I think two that I didn't hear, but are really important to me. One is Tilly Walden, who did come up at some point, but those, I think I have actually read almost everything that they've ever put out happily, and almost all of them have changed me. And one that I've just recently started, like has definitely turned into like, I will read everything you put out, is Naivo. I don't actually know if Naivo is queer. I'm thinking that they might be, but I don't know. I haven't like done a dive. But all of the books and stories that I've read have been. And so I'm just like, I'm like, okay, well, probably. But I've started to like absolutely love all of Naivo's work. And I think that, I literally just like, a new collection just came out. I got it instantly because I was like, I need to read this story. Like talk about magical realism. I feel like, I really appreciate the magical realism that has like that emotional like darkness to it. I don't know, it gets me. Are you asking about this one, PX? Naivo. There you go. Oh, thank you. But yeah, I mean, chat, if you want to put in the chat any of your favorite queer authors, please feel free. We're taking notes. This is
I literally have my notepad up.
And I think
some of them I've read, some of them I'm like, I need to bump some things up. Like Honest Sunbeam has been another one that's on my list for forever. So
that is my show and tell moment later.
Yeah, that's required reading. I think I'll share 3 more just because I want to leave them here. I don't want them to be in the show and tell, okay? Because so we've talked a little bit about how queer fiction has become sort of so prevalent, and I think that's really important also when we're reading the content, right? And this is like my like teacherly writer moment or whatever.
We love you for it.
Yeah. So like Cody made a good point. It's like some books were written before today, basically. And I think that's important, and I think they are valid, and I think that these are like some books that like raised me. I would be like, would today I put them on the list and be like, these are great queer books? I'm like, I don't know about that much, but worth mentioning. Honorary mention. Yeah. Wicked made me super gay. Okay?
I've never read it.
Gay man.
I've only seen it. I've never read it.
I didn't even know it was queer.
Yeah, so the
so
book
queer.
confirms it. Number one. Okay? I'm saying it on the internet for everybody out
there. But there are receipts for this.
Canon-ish.
But also, yes, canon-ish, but Gregory has also spoken a little bit on like the sapphicness and the gayness of his fiction, which is like, I love him.
And they were roommates.
Yeah,
they really were.
This one is actually also a great one if you're looking into like older queer fiction and like what was that like growing up and sort of what was on the shelves. Emma Donahue's Kissing the Witch. Great little collection. She sort of reimagines fairy tales. We talked a little bit about that with Frank. But like very quickly, very flash fiction format. And again, the book's a little dated at this point, but I read it and I was like, this changed my freaking life. So yeah, so those are the two before we get to our actual show and tell.
Have you read Hood by Emma Donoghue? Because I have that one on my list, but I don't know if it's more contemporary or not. Anyway,
I've not. Yeah, Kissing the Witch was where I stopped because I was on my fairy tale era, which still is an era, by the way. I love fairy tales, but that's a different problem.
I love this in the chat from Ashley, who's also an It Gets Better ambassador. About reading autobiographies of queer people and that being a favorite. I totally agree with that. I love autobiographies as audiobooks. There was a time where I could only read audiobooks that were nonfiction. I don't know why. There was like something in my brain, but I've gotten past it very happily. And I used to read lots of memoir and autobiography that way. And reading about the experiences of queer people throughout history is one of my favorite things to do. So that's a good shout, Ashley.
Yeah. Have you
my
read?
brain, of course, is blanking on any because that's how it happens for me.
Have you read Zami by Audre Lorde? Because
Yes.
that also should be required reading.
Oh, Audre Lorde's incredible.
Yes, absolutely.
Biomythography and
Yeah. Which I love even just the idea of like what a biomythography is and
truly
just that whole thing. It just so good. If you haven't read it, absolutely read it. It's
I
incredible.
had the pleasure of reading that for a queer book club, and I like being able to read that and then discuss it with other queer folks was like truly just like such a wonderful experience, like such a beautiful, like, I don't know, like camaraderie. Like I felt like this is a space that I needed in my life to be able to read something that was so beautifully crafted and so profound, but then also to be able to talk about that and in a queer space with other like perspectives and also bring that into it. It just was a really special experience for me.
I love
will
that.
Live in my heart forever.
Are a lot of you in book clubs, or have you done book clubs? I have trouble with them.
Writing workshops really jaded me for literally speaking in a group about something I like. Basically,
yeah.
I was like, I don't, sometimes I'm like, we talked a little bit about reviewing, and I think that in a similar vein, unless the book club is right or it's people that because more often than not, being public sort of clubs, you don't really know who you're going to end up with, and you don't really know if you're safe or not in the same way that you sort of described, Frank. I just like sometimes I'm like I want to keep my opinions to myself, and or I want people to keep their opinions to themselves. As I mean that in the nicest way possible.
I call that like if I loved this less, I could talk about it more. Because when you love something that's so like you're just like we can't we cannot discuss this because I will not be okay.
Exactly.
We're just gonna not.
I'm not a book club person. I think they have the, if you have an awesome book club, please cherish it and enjoy it. And I challenge you to read outside of the scope of the book club. Sometimes book clubs can get sort of like really nichey because you're all just reading sort of like, we're gonna read my favorite book this time or whatever, or genre specific. Read outside of that genre. Bring some other book that you've all sort of heard about but haven't read. So that's my challenge.
I love that challenge.
Honestly, I have tried other book clubs outside of this one that I'm in now, and it has been an okay experience. But I think what ends up happening for me is that I'm in a book club with people who are in a book club to read more rather than in a book club because they want to discuss books. And I want to discuss the book. I want to read and then talk about the thing that I read. And that is like the experience that I really cherished. And when you have that other experience, it feels a little bit like you're assigning homework.
Yeah.
I guess. And that doesn't feel great. This one is not organized by me, first of all, and that is a world of difference, but it's also queer, and it's called Genre Fluid, so it is literally like a multi-genre queer book club. We read only queer books, but beyond that, it's like we did a collection of short stories this past month, Zami before that, and I didn't join it until then, but this month we are reading Confessions of a Fox, which I'm very excited for.
I've somehow never heard of that, even though it has a fox in it.
Oh, yeah.
I'll let you know how it is. I haven't started it yet because, it'll be fine.
Well, that brings me to my issue with book clubs, which is, I guess it sort of like triggers that like recovering academic where it's like, if you're telling me I have to read something by a certain date, I'm not going to be able to do it. If it was my decision, I could probably read it in 2 days. But the second a book club is like, you need to read this by the end of April, I'm like physically unable to do it.
Well said now.
My brain's like, nope, I'm gonna put that off until the last possible day and then feel guilty about it. And like
have a terrible time.
I mean, I do sometimes, but hey, we figure it out. It works.
I love that. One thing that I did want to ask you, and I think I kind of skipped over, was whether any of you have any kind of like reading routine. Because I found that that's also something that helped me get back into reading recently, is that I like make it a moment, I like make it a very cozy self-care. I've kind of equated it to self-care, which has helped me prioritize it. And I'll like get a tea, set some vibe music, turn on my little fireplace. And I usually do it in the morning so that I'm uninterrupted and it's quiet. And I feel like scheduling that in and making it about like caring for myself and self-maintenance has helped me a lot with getting back into the habit. And I was curious if anybody else has any kind of routine, whether it's something as specific as that or just like in general, like how you like to read or how you incorporate it.
I feel like when I'm like in one of my like reading phases, I'm not really right now, but like when I am like actively reading, I do a lot of my reading like when I commute because I live in New York and I'll commute on the subway. So that's where I get most of it done, like in terms of volume. But when I am reading, like my night routine in general is like, I tidy up the house, I wash my face, I feed my cat, I do some yoga. And then like after all that, when I'm feeling very like relaxed, like there's nothing I have to do, I picked out my outfit for work tomorrow, I feel relaxed because I did a yoga video, I'll get in bed with like the side light on and read at least one chapter. And it keeps me off screens before bed, which is nice for sleeping purposes. And it also like kind of keeps me in a moment. So I won't even necessarily be reading a lot because, it'll be near the end of the day and I have to, go to sleep. But it's a nice kind of addition to my nightly routine, a nice little like pleasurable way to bookend the day.
Yeah, that sounds so peaceful.
Yeah.
I miss subway reads. Subway reading was like so good when I lived in New York. Like, what a good time. I think I'm similar in Cody's vein. I'm a nighttime reader when I'm going through something that I'm just like leisure reading. Like nighttime right before bed, read a couple chapters and then make my way through a book there. Otherwise, thankfully, because of the way that I'm able to sort of keep a job as a writer, I can actually take breaks. Like when I'm particularly stuck with something that I'm working on, I'll just step aside and then just like read something, and I'll read right about anywhere. But if it's nice, like take it out to the patio, take in some sun. We live relatively close to a park, so some park reading's always nice, but nothing that's like routine. We did create a book sort of like reading nook that gets less used than I hoped it would. I think I need a different chair, so that's what I'm gonna blame it on.
I support that.
I love it.
I do all of the above. I'm a big fan of like starting my day with a slow morning and reading in the beginning of the day, because I used to get up and immediately like check my email and start like work mode, and kind of like doing away with that and starting my day a lot slower and more purposefully has been really, really great for my mental health. But I also like to like use it to wind down at night. But one of my favorite things that my partner and I will do is that we will like go to a bookshop slash coffee place slash anywhere that feels good, and we'll both bring a book and we have like co-reading time.
I love that.
For like, I don't know, a little while. We just did that this past Sunday, actually. We went to brunch, and I did not think about the fact that it was a Sunday, and brunch is a very popular thing to do on a Sunday.
That's fair.
So it was a little bit rushed. We ended up like grabbing my coffee and like going and sitting kind of in one of like the waiting chairs to free up the table. But it was still really nice to like have some time where we kind of like co-read together, I guess. Yeah. It's a cute time.
Yeah.
I love that. I love any sort of activity that you can do with somebody that you love, where it's just sort of like a quiet, like existing next to each other, not necessarily doing the same thing.
Call them introvert dates.
Yeah, it's great.
We call it parallel play.
Yeah.
Wait, that's so cute. I've never heard of that. I love that. Like gaming next to each other.
We do that. Steam Deck in one and Animal Crossing in the other.
Yeah, I do that with my girlfriend too. She's usually playing this really wild, it's called, oh god, I won't remember the name. It's a mobile game where you like tap the music. I'm sure she could put it in the chat. And she'll be like playing that, and I'll be playing like some cozy game on my Switch or whatever. It's very cute. I love that so much. Well, yeah, I also, I think that for me, scheduling in the time is what made me be able to start reading again. Because for a while it was like, I want to get back into doing this. I know I want to do this. And then I would just go through my day and like not do it. Because like it just didn't, I wasn't used to doing it. So it was suddenly like this thing that I knew I wanted to do, but was never getting done. And then once I started scheduling it in, all of a sudden, like I was reading at other times too, because I was like into the book or whatever. And then I do this thing. This is a big hack that I totally suggest to anybody that wants to try to move more. I wanted to start walking every day, and I just my brain and my body did not want to do it. So I started reading like very engrossing audiobooks during my walks only. And I could only listen to it when I was moving and walking. And like, I would go out for a walk just to see what happened next. Like, nice. It genuinely helps.
Genius.
Okay, so let's see. Do you want to talk a little bit about why representation in books matters? I think maybe getting into like, there's a lot going on right now in terms of, book bans all across the US. I'm sure all of you know about it. It's becoming an increasingly dire problem where books are being banned in schools, and access to what we all like have already acknowledged is like this treasure trove of queer stories that seems to be like really available now, is becoming, attacked and limited. And so I want to know first, why do you think, having representation and telling queer stories is so important? Do you have anything to say about that? And then I have some follow-up questions we could get to if we do.
I mean, Babs kind of already said this, but like, I joke that I don't read to learn anymore because like I read a lot more fiction now than I ever did. I still read nonfiction, but like that isn't entirely true because we do learn through that kind of representation. We learn through the fiction stories. We learn through these ideas of what could be, or like even just learning, like even just like reading, let's like pick on fantasy for a second. Like we can read fantasy through a white cis male lens, and it is going to look so different than reading fantasy that is presented through a queer, indigenous, feminine lens. Like that is going to look, those two worlds are not going to be built on the same structures. And that even just that kind of representation is so important because it broadens kind of this idea that like of what could be, and what like it challenges why we do things the way that we do. It kind of challenges the status quo, and then instead it kind of allows other experiences in, and that not only helps us to understand and relate to one another more, but also understand and like figure out what we want for ourselves, because we can see that represented on page. So that's just like one way, and that's not even necessarily specific to queer things. I think that is true across the board of kind of everything that we read. And it is, I would think, one of the reasons that I think it's so important to be really mindful about whose voices you are reading, and kind of broadening that at all times, and why it's so important to kind of like fight against taking those stories off the shelves for us.
Mm-hmm. And I think that not at the end of the day, I think we're at the start of the day. I think it's a continued work situation. I think sometimes we feel like, oh, such thing happened, and so we're all good. And I think that that's sort of what some of these bands are sort of reminding us, that the work isn't done, that we are not done creating these worlds, creating these possibilities, and making them available so that we can sort of build towards it. Because I think any good book that's doing its job, it's telling you something, or it's making you feel some sort of way, and on the best of times it's making you feel like something better is possible, something that is missing on the puzzle piece or whatever it is. And I think that reality, the reality is that our world is not reflecting that, and so we need to keep creating those books, keep reading them, and making them available. And I think, speaking from like my experiences, sort of like bringing that back, I sort of brought up kind of, for example, like Kissing the Witch. Like if you notice, this book is laminated. When I was growing up, my best friend growing up and I sort of shared these queer books that we would get when we would come visit the States, because they weren't available in the bookstores that we would visit. And it was like we had one copy between the two of us, and maybe if we met any other gay people, right? Like it's like we had this like secret book club almost, honestly, if you think about it, where we had to cherish these copies. And for a time, it wasn't just laminated in plastic, it was also like laminated with like covers that would cover up the front, and it would cover the back, so that people wouldn't tell that there were queer books, like. And those things happened practically yesterday. Like I'm not talking like I'm not talking about like 50 years ago. Like this is like practically yesterday. So now that media has evolved and like social media is so prevalent in our lives, it allows us to really see those fights like face to face, right? Like I brought up like Maya's book. I think I believe like statistically it was like the most challenged book of last year, right? And there was like countless like like court cases, and we're still seeing libraries banning books like left and right, and it's like the fight's not over. And I think that that's why we need these conversations, that why we keep doing the work we're doing, and why we keep amplifying the voices, because It's just not done.
Yeah, and also just like not only like, I don't know, especially with YA and children's book and just like books for younger readers in general, like reading those books can just help so much with labeling and forming your like sexual identity, your gender identity as a younger person. Like I said, like I was gay as hell like my entire life, obviously, but I didn't realize until I like went to college. And I read so much, and all of these books were like the white cishet male fantasy protagonist, and like those characters are still really important to me. And I think there was some gender stuff going on there that I didn't realize because I'm transmasc, and so like certain male characters I related to in certain ways that I couldn't understand. But like if I can kind of tell almost 100% that if I'd had access to books, like if the books I'd read were the books I read, but they about lesbians, about like gender non-conforming trans mass people, I would have realized earlier. Like it took me almost a decade between realizing I was gay and realizing I was trans. And like, but I know it's like there's just certain things. It's like if a character thinks a thing, like or thinks about themselves in a way, and then they label it, and it's a way that you think too, that could be enough for a kid to just be like, oh, like maybe I should Google some things. Like that sounds like me. And
Or
I didn't know
ask,
other
yeah.
people felt like that, or like I thought everybody felt like that and was always uncomfortable in their bodies or like in the world. And like it's just
Well,
not
that's not
true.
normal.
Yeah, and it's like all this YA now, like that's about, I don't know, like diverse people, and like you got to add like, you know, race to it too, because you
Yeah.
can only read so many stories about queer white people before you get exhausted as a person of color. So it's just, I think it's just so important to like realizing who you are, especially for younger people. I mean, not just for younger people, you know, obviously, but
Yeah.
Not wrong though, because I read YA now, even still, and like I know you do too, but like the number of times that I've read something and thought, man, I wish I had this as a kid.
Yeah.
I wish I had read this when I was 15. I wish I had read this when I was 13. And like I'm so grateful that it is there and like that kids do get to read this. And not only for like finding yourself, but also like to normalize that also just like existing in media, right? Like even if you are like reading that and you're like, yeah, but I am cis, yeah, but I am straight, because like, you know, the majority of people are, it is still, I think, so important to like normalize that those stories are also valid and important and they don't take anything away. I think one of the things that we see so often or hear so often is like, oh, I don't relate to that character, so I'm not going to read it. And that comes from mainly white voices, let's be honest. And it's white people saying, oh, that person is a person of color and therefore I don't relate to them, which is such BS, because if you had just changed a couple of descriptive words, you would have completely gobbled that whole story up and not thought anything of it. And like you would not have hesitated. And I think that's so much of what a lot of these stories do is like say like, no, these voices are something that you should and can relate to, because you know, like in all of the ways that yes, they're, you know, our journeys are going to be different and all of that, it is also still like at the end of the day, we're all human and there's a lot of things that we do have in common. And so seeing yourself in, you know, a Black trans mask character is going to be important for me just as much as it is for you, right?
Yeah, that's such a good point. I think this actually was in Fun Home. It was just a memory unlocked for me. Isn't there a scene in Fun Home where the main character like starts to think they might be a lesbian and starts instantly reading books to discover and get the language? Does anybody I feel like that's in there.
Yes.
Yeah. So I feel like, you know, we touched on that for sure. And I agree. Like I had a similar experience, right? Where like I started to be like, oh, I might be this. And I instantly like started to look for the answer in books to sort of understand. And there were some, but not, you know. But I think another thing that's really important, and I think the thing that scares me the most about the timing of book bans, especially as we also have all of these like anti-trans bills that are so pervasive, is just how alone you can feel when you live somewhere where you're not seen for who you are, or you're not able to express who you are, or you're not able to be celebrated for who you are, how isolating that is, and how something as simple as seeing yourself in a book or seeing somebody who, you know, might be like you in a book, thriving, living, you know, doing, loving, you know, exploring themselves, how that could be like honestly the difference between life and death, like not, you know, just like seriously.
No, absolutely.
And I think that that's like why these stories are so important, but also why they need to be everywhere. I mean, my local library, and I live in New York State, my local library tried to ban queer books during Pride Month last summer. They unanimously, the board voted and they removed them from the shelves, all before New York State was like, hey, actually, you can't do that. But like, that's close to home. That's a mile away from me. And, you know, and they were off the shelves for a while. You know, it's wild to me.
Yeah. And, you know, I think that in you know, as much as there are the moments where we sort of stop, obviously, like our conversation, right? We started like very happy-go-lucky about queer fiction, and now we're sort of like on the darker side of it. I think it's not too late for action. I think that's also like the reminder. Again, it's a constant fight. Like, yes, things are not done, but we're also still here. And you know, sometimes it feels like bigger than you, right? Like the fight feels like this is like bigger than me. Like, how could I ever affect this? You know, the reality is that like the change you can make in your community goes, you know, like 10 times better than like you trying to be like, how do I get to the Supreme Court on Sunday so I can march? You know, like sometimes those two things are just as important, because like I mentioned, you know, in those isolating moments, in those people that might still be in those types of situations, it feels like that. It feels like I'm never gonna get out of this hole. Like for a while, I thought I would never be out of the closet, you know. And I think that it's that finding your people, it's the like finding the stories to keep you going that makes that difference, like you said, Lilith. And then once you're out of that situation, right, like let's say that then you go, now like now I get to be like this sort of like out proud like Latina queer, that I get to like write stories about brown kids that are gay, that their family doesn't bat an eyelash about them coming out, right? Like all of these things, I'm like, I could have never seen myself doing that when I was, you know, 15, 18, but I kept going, searching for this moment. And I think it's that. It's like the search for the moment. Like we want a world where there is no bans, where, you know, the shelves can just be shelves. I mean, like on a like categorically level, libraries in general just keep taking books off the shelves. And I'm like, I mean, even if it wasn't just because the queer books are better than some of the other books, first of all, just like let libraries have books. Again, like, that's a different problem in general, but they're all connected. So we need to keep doing the fight, is what I'm saying. I don't know. I'm gonna get off the soapbox.
No, listen, be on the soapbox. And also, like, can we just get a moment to acknowledge how amazing you are? Like that move from like, I'm consuming this is helping me, to I'm gonna help others and I'm gonna tell these stories. Like, you are amazing. I hope you know that you're amazing. I mean, everybody on this panel is amazing for exactly that reason.
It's a shared awesome. It's a shared awesome. We're all here. And again, I swear to God, Lilith did not pay me to do this. But again, great moment to be here, to be with each other. You know, like I found It Gets Better when I was a teenager on YouTube. Like same thing. Like
no
it's
way.
Like
Tell the story.
Was that okay, so here's the story. You know, I'm like, well, gay people, blah blah blah, on the internet. I don't know what I would search for, but if you all might remember, It Gets Better had this like huge campaign with like a bunch of like out gay celebrities, like 10-15 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Those videos was like, this changed my life. There's people on the internet, like I gotta go. So, you know, and that sort of like stays with you in the same way that queer books stay with you, that in ways that you're like, I need to hoard all of these books and have them in my personal library. Like those moments stay with you in ways that you may never realize. in the way that, that you can use later or realize later in moments like this. Like, I found the It Gets Better videos, and then I forgot about it as an institution. And then I got to college, where again I was coming fresh. I was away from my family, which allowed me to be like out of the closet, because I was like, okay, all the friends that know my mom, like, don't tell her I'm gay. This stays here on campus. But I was like the gayest I could be on campus, right? I ran GSA. I was like gay marriage had just been passed when I was in college. Like, we had a huge party. Like, I would have movie nights. Like, I was share books, like all of these things. And I even had us like film an It Gets Better video. So there's a very embarrassing clips of me from college. Don't even
Wait.
Oh no, you need to share. You can't just drop that and not share that.
I will share privately.
In the group chat later.
Yeah, this is group chat thing. But it's that. And then like what an evolution, right? Like, me watching a video, me filming a video, being like, I could be in the It Gets Better website, go. And then me as a professional to be here speaking with you all, Lilith having invited me because we sort of found each other again on the internet, and we find our people and we find our
internet,
moments.
man.
That internet, send the internet an award.
I love that. Honestly, Babs, I mean, like, It Gets Better ambassador when? Because
check.
I feel like, it's time. Oh, I love that so much. I also have vivid memories of watching the It Gets Better content, and having like this moment where it was like, oh wow, that's huge. Like, these are celebrities,
Yeah.
like
Wow, famous people can be gay.
Exactly. If famous people can do it, so can I. You too can relate to unattainable things. Like, you see the full circle here. We can have stories about not you that you can still be like, that could be me.
Amazing. I saw this TikTok the other day, and I think probably many people have seen it, but it was just a trans man existing, and he happened to be older and he had gray hair, and there was a comment where it was like, we get to be old, like that happens to us. And it reminded me, I'm not, I like, It Gets Better ambassador, sure, but like, it did remind me of the mission of It Gets Better, like, like, there, yes, you do get to get old. that is going, like, you do have that is going to happen, and there are people that are there, and and they are willing to be mentors and show you the path to getting there. And I think, not to bring us back to topic, but like, books do that too. TikTok does it, sure, please don't get banned. But like, books do that too, and comics, and all kinds of queer media definitely also have that message. I can't wait to be a sassy old lady. I love that, Medusa. But yeah, that TikTok reminded me a lot of this mission,
I was just gonna kind of add to kind of what Babs was saying about like the fight not being over. As much as like, yes, voting and thinking about your local legislation and not so local legislation and all of those things are really, really important, they are also ridiculously exhausting. And it's just a gentle reminder that the quiet fight that you persist in just by existing is also important. So if you are exhausted and you are tired and you cannot do anything more than just be exactly who you are, then that is also doing it. My partner is non-binary and very visibly trans, and I often think about, like, they came home really tired the other day from class where they had to kind of basically talk to their professor about the fact that none of the research that their professor was presenting included them. And how important it was that there'd be that bit of intersectionality, and how they were exhausted that they had to be the one to say something, and why is this not already there? And they were kind of like, I feel like I'm fighting the system. And I had to remind them that they're like, them just existing is so tiring all the time because they are constantly educating, telling people, reminding people, and they don't exist in only queer spaces where, hey, my name is Frank and my pronouns are she, they is an important, like a normalized thing. They are also existing in spaces where they are the 10th person to introduce themselves and the only person to say their pronouns.
Yeah.
Right. And so like that is such a tiring thing to be doing all the time. It's okay if that is the only thing you're doing. That is also part of the fight. Like it is just part of it is just existing and not even necessarily like doing so visibly or doing so vocally, just being who you are and allowing yourself that space to be who you are is enough.
Absolutely.
Definitely.
Sorry.
No, that was great. That's great.
Good. Very good.
Silence is important. I feel like in panels, everyone's always like, we gotta be talking. Let it soak in. That's good.
Yep.
Cody, I wanted to give you the opportunity if there was anything you wanted to say about this. No pressure. We can move on. But did you have anything that you wanted to contribute? Do we have any, maybe even as a group, any messages specifically for queer youth who might be dealing with this? I mean, I think we've already given messages of like, what you're doing, existence is resistance, what you're doing is enough, here are things that you can do. But is there anything in particular that you would say to any queer youth watching that might be feeling exhausted by all of this or frustrated, and any sort of insight?
You don't have to have an answer. Like it doesn't have to be like a final answer, especially when it comes to your identity. I did not know, still don't know how I identify in terms of anything, gender or sexuality for that matter. And I know that I love my partner and I know that I love feminine things, but I also know that I don't necessarily feel like woman is exactly the right thing, but yet it is, and yet it's not. So there's a lot of like exploration to be had, and you don't have to have a label or you don't have to have a final answer at any point. You can continue to explore that and it can shift and change and go back and forth. And there's no end game there to shoot for necessarily.
Yeah, and just like adding on to that, it's like in terms of labels, it's like I feel like it's so important to have a reminder that labels, you don't have to use them if they don't make you happy. They exist for like your comfort and like for your self-discovery. Like they can also be helpful like to communicate who you are to other people. The most important thing is like knowing who you are, really. And also like if you find I'm a person who finds comfort in labels. Every time I've like found one to be able to put in my pocket, like, ooh, lesbian, asexual, trans, it's been like amazing. Let me hoard these. I know who I am. But also they can change. Like any day, things fluctuate. You discover new things about yourself because you think about it more or because you really do just change as a person as we grow. And it's just like to be gentle with yourself. Like do what brings you comfort. It's not about anyone else's comfort, which is easier said than done, but it's still at the end of the day, I feel like it's important to remember that it's your identity is for you. It's not for other people.
Yeah, I love that. I think, when I told y'all about my library, right? So at first I was like, okay, so the answer to this is I'm going to boycott my library. And then I was like, well, that seems like probably not the best thing. I don't know, libraries are great, So like I've been doing this thing where I think I can't remember, but it was somebody in my chat recommended I do this. I cannot remember right now who it was, but I've been doing this thing where I start requesting books. Mm-hmm. And I've just been requesting like large quantities of sapphic fiction, and I just feel like this is like a quiet super resistance that I am doing, like just the idea that somebody in this very like conservative town could stumble upon like Delilah Green Doesn't Care and just be like,
yes. I have no words for how much I love that.
That's so good.
Yeah. It's so good because they have a budget, right? They have a budget to fulfill those requests. So
and they have to use the budget so they can get the budget again.
So they'll spend it on what people are requesting, and you just like quietly being like, hi, there are queer folks in this town.
Yep.
There are queer folks, and then like also other queer folks getting to like come in and see those things. I have no words for how much I absolutely adore that.
And it's not
So
like
good.
a lot of the books, it's not like queer 101, it's like,
Yep.
Delilah Green doesn't care. Like, oh, that's a tattooed woman. Like, sure, like.
Yeah.
She's just sassy.
She's just,
She's just from New York. She just lives in
edgy.
New York.
Don't worry about it. She just doesn't care.
Yeah, that's all.
But seriously, like, I think, in terms
For
of
those of you-
thinking, oh, go ahead.
For those of you not in on the joke, that is it's a sapphic romance with explicit on-page sex scenes. So.
Oh yeah,
It's gay.
Super gay.
Steamy. But also has exquisitely built characters, a wonderful
so good.
story.
No, wonderful. It's just also not like
it's also-
quietly queer.
Very loud.
From the cover, you could assume that they're just roommates.
Yeah, they're just
You don't know.
friends. Gal
they're just-
pals.
Bring it back.
History will say they were friends.
Very good friends.
Very, very good friends.
Oh, it's Delilah Green doesn't care. I'll type it in the chat.
It's
Ashley,
also
Harry,
part of the
Blake.
show and tell, but
Oh, okay,
It
there we go.
is.
I actually
Oh,
can't.
it's so
Yeah,
good.
I think I spelled it right. I don't know. I haven't read the sequel yet. Have any of you?
No, it keeps not being
Mm-mm.
at the bookstore when I go, and I prefer to buy books in person. I should just buy it online at this point, but I just like keep going and hoping to find
Or-
it.
tell your bookstore to order you a copy specifically.
Well, I don't have like a bookstore because I
Oh,
live
no.
in like Upper Manhattan. We don't have like I have to go
Oh.
downtown to like Barnes and Noble. There's no, but I'll tell them.
Yeah.
I love it.
Uh,
Oh, go ahead.
No, I don't. It's gone. The thought escaped.
Mine too. It just occurred to me, Frank, that you had wanted us to table a question for Babs, and I don't think we ever got back to it, and I can't remember what it was now. Do you?
I do. It was how do you do homework reading and like how do you manage homework reading and reading for fun? I'm just curious.
take
I don't
turns.
need to do that,
Yeah.
but like
Yeah, I take turns. I usually have. So we haven't specifically talked about this, but I feel like most people probably do this. I usually am reading several books at the same time. So I'll have like a very serious book that I'm reading because I think it's important, or and then I'll have like something that, like you said, it's like candy for me because I'm just like, this is just a book that I wanted to read. What I've also really found that helps me, and again, I'll save them for the show and tell, so you have to stick around. But I also find that anthologies helped really well with measuring that. So
Like
I don't
short-
have
like
to read. So short story collections, and when it comes to like nonfiction stuff, they're collected essays or anthologies that sort of speak to a theme, and that way I can read one and just kind of like think on that and then come back, and it's usually like a great reference point for a bibliography because then I have like 15 authors that are all queer and that are creating in very different spheres, and then I can go back to them when needed. So that's kind of the juggle there.
it makes sense.
Yeah.
I read kind of similarly, but like only for fun. I don't really read for research purposes for any particular thing necessarily, but I definitely have like something that is, I almost always have like one, although I'm starting to have 2 physical books because I have an out of stream job now, where I find myself having like short time to read. So I've been reading manga actually.
Yeah.
Which is a good time, but I also have like something that is like a physical book that I'm reading. Those are just much more mentally taxing, and then almost always at least one audiobook, if not 2 audiobooks
Yeah.
going at the same time. So like several books all the time.
Yeah, I feel like
I never
always,
used to be able to do that. No, I just was gonna say I never used to be able to do that, and we used to like be able to focus on more than one thing at a time.
For me, I think it has to be like a different type of book, and then I can juggle it. Like I'll have like an audiobook, I'll have a graphic book, I'll have a fiction book. Like I think that if I was reading 2 like fantasy fiction books at the same time, I think I'd start getting confused.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
As someone who does that sometimes, it is confusing and doesn't really work. It's like, oh god, which world was what? What's happening?
Wait, how does the magic system work?
I don't know.
On my like journey of coming back from like a very real reading burnout, one thing I haven't actually been able to get myself to do, and I think I'm just being patient with myself, is read those books, and especially like nonfiction that I feel like is important for me to read because it's, you know, a perspective that I am not familiar with, or, you know, really well spoken on a subject that's important to me, or, but if it's not in this, like, you know, I'm being led by joy and I'm reading things that make me happy kind of vein, I feel like I struggle with fitting it in still. I'm hoping I get back to it.
I have a tip for that.
You do, please.
So, you know, we talked about reviews and the dangers of them earlier, but the counter of that is that there are some great book reviewers out there that actually can dig into those sort of books that you're like, oh, like I should read this, but you're not entirely sure. And those really help me to sort of understand. It's like, okay, I'll definitely read this book, you know, because of research, or because it's gonna, you know, help me as a human be better. So you know, like Autostraddle has one. Teen Vogue actually has a great staffing of writers for book reviews right now. So
Teen Vogue?
Yeah,
I had no idea. That's amazing.
Yeah, their online coverages. So yeah, like Teen Vogue, Autostraddle come to mind. For the comics, graphic novels realm, Women Write About Comics is really great as a entity. But yeah, sort of like finding those people that you're like, I trust this person to tell me, you know, often are queer journalists, that I trust their opinion on something, and they're usually pretty good to show an unbiased sort of review in that
I
sense.
love that. That's great. Yeah.
I was just gonna say, I started reading kind of like at the end of 2020 again, like kind of at the volume that I do now. And last year I just was like, read whatever the heck you want, just read, because you're reading again and that's great, and you should just read what brings you joy. And this year I really focused on kind of like being I am focusing on, I should say, being more mindful about how I am picking books and what I am reading, and putting books down when I don't enjoy them. But along with that, I really wanted to read more nonfiction. I wanted to kind of challenge myself to like add that into my repertoire. And I just basically made myself a list of nonfiction books at the beginning of the year that were like things that I thought would be interesting and things that I wanted to get to. And it's like, I don't know, 10 to 15 nonfiction books. For those of you who are like 10 to 15, oh my God, like, first of all, I don't know that I'm going to get to all of them. And second of all, I read a lot. I read 10 to 15 books a month. So like, that's not a ridiculous amount for me.
Mileage may vary, and that's okay.
Yeah, like, do a list that makes sense for you, okay? Like, don't freak out. But also, it really helped me to be like, okay, yeah, I think I could be kind of in the mood for something, or like if I wanted to take something that was like at a slower pace, I would just like pick off that list. So I already have kind of like a short list. So I'm not super overwhelmed by what I want to read. And instead I can kind of be like, okay, yeah, I'm going to pick this one up. Also, as Babs was saying, I think essay collections are really great. Like I read Braiding Sweetgrass last year, which is a collection of essays by one person. It's by Robin Kimmerer, but because they're essays, you could really like pick it up, read an essay, put it down, and not like they weren't like totally related. And I think that does really help to kind of get you back into, oh, I should be reading these things because they're good for me, but it feels more like work.
Yeah.
I don't know. That. Carving out a different space for that sort of reading, I think, if it's something that you're like, I really do want to do this.
And what I'm hearing is that I could make a Notion page on.
I literally have one. So if you want me to share one with you.
No, you have given me an excuse to play in Notion for a while.
Well, I'll show you mine. I'll just share it with you all after we're done.
Genuinely, I would love the Rex.
It's really nice because you can search by like genre, but also by like author identity. and a couple of other things in there, so you can like filter things.
Oh, I need to see it. Yeah.
See? It's really nice.
That sounds amazing. I love that. Let me see. Where are we at here? What do I want to ask y'all? What would you like to see more of in queer fiction these
Polyamory.
days?
Sorry. You weren't even done asking the question.
Say more.
The first time I ever saw polyamory in a book was Iron Widow.
Oh my
That
God,
wasn't
Iron
like
Widow.
a why choose kind of sort of icky romance feeling. Was Iron Widow, and it was the first time I did not know it was in the book before I started. Sorry if I spoiled that for anybody, but basically I was like, oh no, they're going to do this love triangle thing. Ew, I hate that because it's never a love triangle. That implies that they're connected. It's always a love V where there's one interest and two people that are like vying for their attention. And I was so annoyed that they were like setting this up. And then I was like, wait a second.
Right. It's so good.
And it was so good. I actually annotated that book, and you can see like my realization through my notes of like, ah! Like so excited. But it's just not common, and I would love to see more of it. That's all.
I don't know if I have like so much of a short list of like what I want to see, other than like always more diverse characters, just like more diverse queer. But I also going back to at the beginning of our conversation, we mentioned that like we're on our mid era of like getting mid queer content. Like sometimes I think I'm like, we have to get to like the trashy era. Like we're almost at the threshold.
Like the Twilights and the
Yeah. like I want us to keep going towards it so we can have the really like sometimes I'm like, we're not ready for that. Like we're not ready for like messy poly fiction is not there yet. You know what I'm saying? Like we're not there to sort of like critically and like openly look at that. You know what I'm saying?
we need it.
Yeah.
We need it, absolutely. But
Not
we're
trashy
not there.
for like the reasons that things like Twilight are trashy, because like that's
Correct.
Yeah, but just like messy.
Just like messy gay.
Yes.
Like sometimes we're not ready for the social conversation of like messy gayness being okay, basically.
Yeah, give me the story that is all of the lesbians in the town have dated each other.
Yes.
Mimosa.
Real.
We know it's true. So like
Mimosa is that's that book.
Yeah.
Mimosa.
Really? I've never even heard of that one. Adding it.
It just came out recently.
Adding
It's a
it.
graphic novel. Yeah, read Mimosa. That's it.
it's literally, I just was gonna type it down, but it's literally on my DVR.
Ooh, the cover. I really like the cover. The people that are on the cover are very attractive. I like that.
It's a good start.
I mean, honestly, Frank, like I think polyam stories in general like need to be told more in every medium. Like even in games that have really good representation, like I like the one that comes to my mind right now is The Sims, right? Like you can tell some amazing queer stories in The Sims.
Yeah, but you need to cheat in order to be polyamorous.
Struggle to show. Yeah.
It's like a whole thing. You can set it up. And then so if you're ever interested, I can show you how, but it involves like characters having a certain trait, and then there is a cheat for it, basically, that doesn't exactly allow polyamory so much as it stops jealousy. So it's like kind of a weird thing. And then even then it's one person that's dating multiple people, not necessarily like multiple people dating each other. Yeah. So yeah, I agree.
As if being polyam just gets rid of jealousy.
Yeah. Yeah. Wouldn't that be the way? Just like, oh.
Oh gosh. I'm trying to think of a single book that has that I've read. I have not read The Iron Widow yet.
Gotta read Iron Widow.
I guess I'm gonna have to read it.
Dowry of Blood is another one that has great polyamory. Well, actually, it has polyamory rep, but the whole thing is very toxic. So it's really intriguing, and it ends up in a good, healthy place. But like the path there is kind of messy, which I enjoyed. I liked reading it because I was like, yeah, it's
good.
Real.
Not a bad thing to have messy. It's just like sometimes we are ready to have those like be part of the bookshelf, and some other times they're like, we're not ready to have those on the shelf yet for different reasons, I think, socially. I mean, like right now, again, going back to it, like we're fighting trans bans on like really, I will say, kind of like very low stakes,
It's
you
just
know,
some
when it comes
moral
to
panic
transness.
shit.
Like I'm like, there are so many other things to worry about in the world at large. Like I'm just like big
Yeah.
brain moments.
Yeah.
I think for me, I mentioned it before talking about Melinda Lowe, but I do want to see more like not, I mean, I do want to see like just more trans representation everywhere, obviously, but more of the like the, especially as like a lesbian who's not cis, it's like more of that intersection of gender and being sapphic, and just
Mhm.
like how that looks for personal identity, but also for attraction towards that. You know what I mean? Like masc and femme and butch and all that is such, they're so important in like lesbian and sapphic communities, and it's like still so much of what you see is just like the femme for femme couples in different forms of media, because it's like kind of like the default. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like a lot of them, it'll be like the blonde woman and the brown haired woman, and that's like the diversity in the lesbian couple. So I just like want
Yeah.
to see more of the intersectional, and there's more and more of it happening. Like I like that I get to see. I want to see more of this instead of I want to start seeing it, because I
Yeah.
already
Mhm.
get to read books like that now, and
Yeah.
it's awesome. Like all these like it's like by all these queer BIPOC authors who are, you know, writing like, you know, they're fantasy books, but it's like based on their lived experience of like
Yeah.
not being a cis white queer person.
Yeah.
So just more of that, please.
I was
Yeah.
just gonna say the other thing kind of along that lines is intersectional like or interracial couples that aren't a white person and a
Yeah.
two
Yes.
two
You
people
don't have
who
to
are
have a
not
white
white
person
would
and
be
an
great.
interracial couple.
Yeah.
There's a comment in the chat about trans non-binary characters whose plots aren't about discovering themselves. They should just
Love
be able to
that,
exist.
please.
And like absolutely. And I would say that like for all of the identities, like I just want to see people existing, you know, and like Bab said, existing in a messy way. Like I feel like heterosexual like relationships and characters and like they've been able to just be like messy AF for years.
Yeah.
And like it's just it's okay. Like we don't need to be like, you know, we don't have to have ourselves figured out. We could be struggling with what we're, you know, we can have questions about ourselves that are not in any way related to our sexuality or gender. Like there's so many things I need to figure out about myself that have absolutely nothing to do with that. And I would love to read books about that, you know? Like, I love that.
I recommend Psalm for the Wild Bill. Only I just finished it like 2 days ago, so I'm like it's really fresh in my brain, but the entire thing is about a T-monk's journey into trying to figure out if that's what they want and is it okay if that's not what they want. But it has nothing to do with anything to do with their gender or sexuality. It is exactly like, what do I want out of life?
Oh, I'm gonna read it.
Need to read that.
It's short too, so
Honestly,
it's easy.
everything you've ever recommended to me, I've loved. So I'll just keep that train going. So
Perfect.
I think this is a good time for a self-care break. So we're gonna go on BRB. The panelists are gonna take care of themselves for a few minutes. We recommend that y'all do the same. Get some water, unlock your jaw, take some deep breaths, and we'll be back in a few minutes. And when we get back, I would love to ask y'all what you're reading right now. So, and that goes for the chat too. I want to see like whatever everybody's reading right now in the chat. So BRB will be back in a few minutes. We still have show and tell coming up, which I'm really excited about. So we'll be back in a few. So stay tuned. Hello, hello.
Hey.
We are back. I hope you had a good break. Kitty.
Isabella.
Hi, Isabella. Oh my goodness. What a precious baby. Oh my god, the sound.
Don't worry about it. She's fine.
I had a cat that, like, when he would make that noise, it was like, I'm gonna scratch you. So that noise makes me like.
Oh no, she's very well behaved. She lets me do anything.
That is so cute. Welcome back, everybody. Oh yeah, thank you so much for the med check. Definitely, if you need a reminder to take your meds or vitamins, definitely make sure to do that. Thank you so much for that reminder. To my comment, it's The Wicked Bargain. I don't think I've ever heard of that. Oh, but it might be in Babs's show and tell. Okay, we'll wait on that. Spoiler
I got
alert.
him. During the break, Brie came upstairs and they were like, "You got it? Is it on your list?" I was like, "I got you, dude. I got you." That's why you get married. You get gay married so you can recommend books to each other forever.
True.
Truly, literally one of the books that I'm currently reading is a book that my partner has wanted me to read for over like 5 years. And I have been constantly inundating them with books, and they're like, "You need to stop. I am in grad school."
Oh my god.
I'm like, yeah.
I love that. So yeah, why don't we chat a little bit about what we're currently reading right now? Did you want to start, Frank, since you...
Sure. I'm reading The Luminaries by Eleanor Catton, which is not gay.
It's so good, though. It's just good fiction.
Really good. It's so dense. It's really intensely written. Eleanor Catton has a background in like legal writing, or like she has a background in legal something. So it's all very like as if you are reading testimony, but it's not. It's a mystery, but it's not. I don't know how else to describe it, but it's also rooted in like astrology, which is kind of interesting as well. So I'm through the first part, which is about 40% of the way through the book, and I have actually been reading it like physically and in audio because ADHD is so real and it's just really descriptive. There's not a ton of dialogue in it, and that is a hard thing for me because my brain is mushy, and so it helps keep me really immersed in it. I'm enjoying that. I am about to start Confessions of the Fox for book club by Jordy something or another. I can't remember their name. And I am part of the way through, about a third of the way through Beasts of Ruin, which is the second in the Beasts of trilogy, which is fantastic. It's really sweet YA fantasy that is set. It's like set in like African jungle kind of setting. It's really, really cool. The first one was phenomenal. I'm loving the second one so far. I'm loving where the story is going and how it's evolving and bringing in new characters and more history. The world feels really rich. So I'm really enjoying that. And then I'm also reading the fourth volume of Delicious in Dungeons, which is a really cute manga. That is like D&D fantasy where they go into a dungeon and eat monsters. So it's like it's full of recipes and stuff with like monster meat. It's so cute.
I need to read that.
It's so good. I'm really enjoying it. So yeah, just a casual few books.
Just a few. Just a
spinning right now.
That wasn't even the show and tell. We haven't even gotten to that part.
I mean,
I don't know that any of those are actually. Oh no, Confessions of the Fox is queer, but I don't think the rest of them are. So
okay,
that's okay
about it.
Does everybody agree that you can just make characters queer? I mean, I do that.
Everything I read is queer. I'm
yeah,
queer.
I mean, I do have a little ship happening in the Luminaries that I'm sure is not on page, but I'm like,
but it's in here.
And you better believe that there's somebody on the internet who agrees with you, and like it's like you can find it.
Yes.
What about you, Cody? What are you reading? Also, your mug. I can't even take it.
Oh yes,
I was
it's my lesbian flag Catradora mug.
Oh wow,
it's very important.
She-Ra is my comfort show. I literally watch it every night before bed on Netflix.
It's like one of the best shows that's ever happened ever. I love it so much.
Amazing.
Speaking of queer representation, very important.
Yeah, no kidding.
But yeah, reading. So like I said before, I'm not in a huge reading phase right now. So what I ended up doing is I did that thing where I was like kind of petering out. So I'm kind of in the middle of 3 books. But like I also have just been playing Borderlands 3 for like 10 hours a day or
You're
something.
still reading them.
Yeah, I don't know how story-based that game is, but yeah. More about shooting stuff. But the books I am reading are Bella's very curious about my book pile. The main one is The Faithless by C.L. Clarke. And it's a sequel to one of my favorite books of all time, The Unbroken, which is in my recommendation pile.
Yeah.
It's just awesome. So good. Gay, like sapphic, kind of messy, morally gray, like post-colonial, anti-imperialist stuff. It's so good, so well written. I'm obsessed with them. Very good. The other is The Crier's War, which I haven't gotten that far into, but it's kind of like one of the characters is something called an autome, and it's like the world is kind of ruled by like these construct people, and one of the girls is one of those, and the other is a human. And it was recommended to me by someone in my Discord. I don't know that much about it, but it's very cool, and the world building is pretty sick as well. Nice. And then the other is The Genesis of Misery by Neon Yang.
I'm curious about all of your thoughts on all 3 of these, because I have all 3 of them are like on my list.
Good. They should be, is what I'll say. They should be on your list. And this is like it's kind of like Joan of Arc meets Pacific Rim meets space meets Neon Genesis Evangelion meets queer people, neo pronouns everywhere.
Nice.
Really cool, like unreliable narrator stuff going on.
Love that.
And I just picked it up because it was like one of those beautiful experiences that happens now, where I was at a bookstore, like a small bookstore I go to in Montreal sometimes actually, and I was like, this is a sick cover, I'm gonna read the blurb. And then I was like, oh my god, it's by a queer person and it's queer. I just picked it up because I thought it looked cool, so I bought it immediately. And it's very cool. So
yeah.
But you can just pick up a cool looking book and then it's gay. Very, very wonderful.
Isn't that amazing?
That's the dream.
So wild.
All right, let's see. What do I got on my list? So, we were talking a little bit how I sort of read for work and fun. So my current work read is Letters to a Writer of Color, and it's a collection of essays on being a writer of color. Some of the writers featured are also queer, so it's a great intersection for me, where it's like immigrants, queer, and sort of like a writer. So that's great. Our nighttime read, so my spouse and I also read to each other because I love reading out loud as a practice just for me. We're going through Legends and Lattes.
Oh, I want to read that.
If you were interested in Delicious and Dungeon, this is like it's spiritual nibbling.
They really are
prose.
they're very similar in terms of
vibe. This is put out by Cryptid Press, and then now Thor is sort of leading the charge. Lots of great queer books if you're ever sort of like looking for a publisher that's doing that.
Houses,
yeah. But Legends and Lattes, what if Dungeons and Dragons opened a coffee shop? That's all I got to tell you. It's a coffee shop AU. It's gay. No losers. There's a second book coming out, so great for all of us. And then my to-start pile is The Wicked Bargain, which is what my spouse was yelling about on chat. It's got pirates. It's got magic system. It's Latina and queer. So it's all of me.
Did you hear the audiobook is voiced by Vigo Ortiz?
Yeah, Vigo Ortiz is the voice for the audiobook, which I was honestly, when I saw that, and I was like, do I just want to get the audiobook?
I'm doing the audiobook.
So
I have to do that audiobook.
But literally on
all of
them
us
right
now.
But this book just came out pretty recently, so that's kind of why some of us hadn't quite heard from it. But my spouse read it on the plane coming back from San Fran for work, and we're like, I'm about to cry from this thing, so you have to read it. So
it makes me so happy.
So I'm currently reading The Wicked Bargain.
Heck yeah!
You and me both.
Ooh, that sounds good.
We're starting a book club after this. It's just a Wicked Bargain.
I think that Cody is going to be happy about what I'm currently reading because it finally happened. I am finally reading Priory of the Orange Tree.
Yes!
Yay!
Finally!
Oh my god, you're gonna love it!
It's so good,
I
Lilith.
love it already, and I don't know what took me so long, but I think it's massive. It hurts my wrists. I have weak wrists, I've learned from reading this book.
Fair. When I read it, I also had it on ebook, and when I read it on the subway, I just read it on my phone because it's the biggest fucking book I own.
And I have the hardcover, and it's like it's like I prop it up.
Yeah.
But I'm really excited to finally be reading it because I know the prequel just recently came out. I don't know if if you've somehow managed to read it already, you're very impressive.
I haven't yet, no.
I'm so excited to read it.
But yeah, I mean, the fact that it took me this long to start it is a testament to how I can talk myself out of things that are good for me, because it's like, it's lesbians and dragons and literally was made for me, but...
Oh, dude, it's such a good book.
But yeah, I'm not reading anything else because I needed to give it my whole entire focus.
Yeah. That is very fair. That's another one that I read both audiobook and physical book at the same time.
Is great.
The audiobook is fantastic.
I've been like every once in a while, I've been slowly rereading it through the audiobook just when I get the audiobook itch, and it's really good.
I actually need a new audiobook, which now I guess is going to be the Pirates. But
audiobook book club.
Awesome. Well, I've added a bunch to my list now just from that question alone.
Truly. Everything that everybody's reading, I'm like, if I haven't read it, I am currently reading it.
So this is not an adaptation, but it made me think of it because, Katra on your mug, Cody Quest. So yeah. I'm curious if you have any TV, movie adaptations that you really liked or that you absolutely hated. And then also any that you'd like to see come our way.
I mean, shout outs to Heartstopper for nailing it. If you haven't seen the first season of Heartstopper, it literally takes lines from the graphic novels, and it really truly, I think, stayed so true to the feeling of reading those books, like more than I think any adaptation I've ever seen before. I think aside from a couple of character changes and visually, but even then they didn't stray too far, and I just think it was just beautifully done. And obviously it swept the queer scene for a while because I think it is also, although it is kind of a story of coming out, it is also kind of queer joy. And it's this young queer story that I think is just really beautiful to see. That was probably one of my, as far as staying the truest to the books adaptations that I have seen, that I've been you did it. You did a good job.
You did a good.
Yeah, that's I loved it. It was so good. I don't even think I had a single criticism. Yeah.
No, more of it is my only criticism is I can't, why are you making me wait for the rest of it?
I'm trying to think. I'm what adaptations? Queer books. I don't know. I just want queer content everywhere. I'm it doesn't have to be adapted or not.
Yeah. Have any of you seen? Oh, go ahead. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
You're good. We were kind of talking. We were talking She-Ra. I'm excited for the Nimona adaptation. So that's back on. The movie is gonna happen. Nate Stevenson was like, "We're good, you guys." So
I need it.
I need it so bad.
Yeah.
I don't watch a lot of TV or movies really. I'm more of it's I get most of my stuff from books and video games. So I don't know. I guess I would love an actually incredible, faithful however long it needs to be mini series type thing for Priory.
Yes.
And
that'd be so fun.
If it was done well, that would be the coolest shit ever, but I don't really trust TV enough, so I don't want it to happen. As as someone who's kind of never really satisfied with them.
It's funny that you
Adaptations
say
and
that
stuff.
because I was just thinking of like the Wheel of Time adaptation
Mm.
and how I have not read the Wheel of Time books, and I don't. It turns out probably don't have any interest in doing so
No.
because one of the things that I like about the adaptation is how gay it is,
Yeah.
and apparently that's like completely made up for the show.
No, yeah,
Like,
those
it's,
books
like,
are
really-
love it or hate it.
Yeah, it's like really downplayed in the series,
very
and I was like,
long.
oh. But that's why I wanted it. Because like there's like straight up just like polyamorous folks that are like living their best lives in the show, and I'm like, yeah, that's great. I would love to read books like that, but then I found out that that's not really a thing in the books, and I was like, oh, never mind. Not interested in a 13-book series to not have it be gay.
No, definitely not.
But I gotta say, I kind of love that, like, we're learning that in order for these books that are like, you know, that don't have any sort of queer rep, these like older beloved books to be popular now in TV and film, like we gotta add gay stuff. Like,
and also change the race of things too, and like add more diversity that way. Because was it that show? No, it was, what show was it that also like got in hot water for like changing like the elven race? Was it?
Oh, Rings of Power, probably.
Yeah,
That's
Rings
the one.
of Power.
Yeah, because like all the white people being like, elves can't be black, and it's like elves can't exist. Okay, they can be black. Like they're not real.
Fantasy.
It's literally all made up, guys.
oh god.
But yeah, I think you've like kind of nailed it. Actually, it's funny because you brought up Ursula K. Le Guin, and I hate to burst your bubble about this, but I did not read Ursula K. Le Guin when I was younger. And I tried reading the Legend or the Earthsea series, the Wizard of Earthsea series. I got through the first 2 books and I was like, I am not loving this. And I feel like it is like, it's probably just like, I need to try something else or I needed to keep going with it. But I like ended up walking away from the series, at least for a time. Maybe I'll pick it. Maybe you can convince me to pick it up back up. Not that it's your job, but and I was like, is it because it's just about some white dude that I'm like struggling with this? Like, why exactly is it? I think there's kind of a number of factors, but I don't know. There's like a lot that I do like. There's like kind of a quiet softness to the main character that I really enjoyed, but beyond that, I was having a really hard time connecting with all of it. And I think like if that were to get an adaptation, like that's part of what I'm like, you know, how would that look?
So it did, and they whitewashed the character, which, you know, and apparently I think she hated it. But first of all, totally valid to not like it. I think the things that we read as kids, or anything that we read in a moment where we really need it, they stick with us, and like they're hard to translate, right, to like other people loving it for the same reasons. But I will say that the reason that I love it, and I wouldn't even say that series is my favorite like of her books, but the reason that I love it is the character Tehanu, who you probably have not met. Because they come later.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Maybe I'll pick it back up.
There's more to it than meets the eye after the first 2 books.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Intrigue at the panel, at the queer fiction panel.
Truly. No, honestly, it's helpful. It's helpful to talk to people who've read them and loved them, because like I said, I chalked it up to, this is older fantasy. I am too old for it, or like fantasy has moved on from this place, and like it's written so differently now. Because that is also a thing, I think.
Definitely.
Is that like stylistically it feels old.
Yeah.
Like it feels.
It's different.
I mean,
Also,
even for me when I was a kid, it was old. So, you know?
Also, I take back my vote. I do want to see an adaptation. I think we need a movie for One Last Stop.
Dude, yes.
That would be such a fun movie.
I think this is it. I
left that one off my list. Wait, were we all gonna put that on our list?
Yeah. That's why I took it off. I was like, Cody has it. I think we're good.
It's so good.
Let's go.
That is so funny.
I took it off because I was like, oh, that's right. We're supposed to stick to YA. I see nobody else did that. That's fine.
Well, I did, and then I was like, wait, but not everyone 100% did, so I'm gonna throw this back in.
You know, I debate that children, they're not children. Like youth and young adult readers are reading above their
Oh, yeah.
level. Like YA is such like a poor statistic anymore, like to like categorize a book.
It was honestly good for me to have a limitation.
For Frank specifically.
It was like, oh, if I stick it to just queer, just YA, then I'll have a list.
Then I'll only have 50 books, and it won't be too
Yeah, I mean, like it gets better is all about like like it's very sex positive. Frank and I were on a panel where we talked about sex the entire time. So like
Yeah.
Also a fantastic panel. Would do again.
Oh gosh, I was gonna say something and I lost my train of thought. What were we talking about before that?
Ursula K. Le Guin.
Yeah.
Oh, Le Guin.
And Ursula Le Guin.
The book though that I would say, like, listen, you might not love it. It is older. It is, but I think
I'm giving it a shot. Let's go.
The book that really helped me and like made me, I think, love her was The Left Hand of Darkness. And like her exploration of gender and possibilities in that in the 70s, like. And like from not even the standpoint of like, I mean, I don't think that she was in any way like trans or genderqueer. Like she was just like thinking like what, like thinking about gender and where it comes from. And it's incredible. Like I think incredible for the time it was written, and like also just a really interesting like take on it. So I would recommend that one. It's standalone. It's not even a whole series. You can just read it.
I'm in. My list is shot for this month, but like it's fine.
It's on Beautiful. It. We're adding it.
That means it's a successful panel.
Yeah.
Oh, good. I'm laughing at all of you because I literally said to them, I was like, pick 1 or 2 books for show and tell. And every single one
we jumped over that. We just ignored that in chat.
We were just like, sorry, I didn't. What was that?
I tried. I made a list because I was like, oh, I wonder if there's gonna be lots of like crossover. I don't think I see anything from my list. Well, I left Cemetery Boys off, so I know that's one. I left one last time. Okay, there are some that I've left off, but I was like, I want to make sure that I have variety. That we're not all like recommending the same things also.
Correct.
And it's like, I was like, okay, if I have to, I have top 2 in my head.
Exactly.
But just in case, I have a pile. Yeah, just in case.
I love it.
Never have too many books.
And I think, oh, go ahead.
No.
No, please do.
No, because I was gonna move on from this subject, so go for it.
So was I. I was doing my like posterly transition, so save me from it.
Oh, I was just gonna say, going back to adaptations really quickly, one of the things that I have on my list is not an adaptation, but it is made into part of a different adaptation. And I'm curious if anybody has seen Shadow and Bone. I haven't watched the 2nd season yet, but I watched the 1st season, and it's actually like I was reading Shadow and Bone when the series came out, the 1st season came out, and I was like not loving it, and then I really enjoyed some of the characters in the season. Turns out they're like the Shadow and Bone is a trilogy that has 2 other duologies.
Yes.
Like 2 separate duologies that are also part of the same universe, but they're not connected stories.
Yeah.
And the characters that I loved were not part of the original trilogy.
Yeah.
So I read the trilogy and was like, that was disappointing.
Where did they come from? Out of nowhere, or
They come from one of the duologies, and they've like written them into the series, which is so weird as somebody who's read them now.
The show bothers me because of that. Like, I feel like it's not doing justice. Like, I'm not wild about Shadow and Bone, but I am wild about Crooked Kingdom, like Six of Crows. Like, and that's fine. I feel like Shadow and Bone is a bit safer. It's more of a debut fantasy trilogy, and then like she got to do something really interesting with Six of Crows. And then the show is just like, let's mash them together until it kind of ruins both of them.
Yeah, it did also really like do a good job like introducing the world and the magic system in a way that is not super well done if you just like read the duology by itself. Yeah. But I don't think it's as necessary in the dual.
I read Six of Crows and Crooked Kingdom. Just those were the first things I ever read by Lee Bardugo. And at first I was a little confused.
Yeah, I think like when you're talking about like the Grisha power, you're a little like, what is happening here? But you also, it's not as integral to the story either. Yeah. So I think you like kind of get away with it. Anyway, Six of Crows is one of my recommendations because there's really lovely found family in that book. probably one of my favorite found families, actually, that I've encountered in any kind of like YA fantasy. It's just
Same.
like, it's really, really lovely. It's like kind of this band of thieves, band of rogues that kind of come together to make the world better. And they're a bunch of misfits and they are lovely.
I love all of them.
Yeah, I love every single one of them.
I just got the warmest feeling, like thinking about how found family, whether or not the characters are like, you know, expressly queer, like that's a queer story. Like I just like I got such a warm feeling thinking about that.
And it is too. Like 2 of the characters are queer, but not all of the characters are, and it's still like a very like they are all family kind of story, and it is just really beautifully done. I don't know. I really enjoyed it.
I love that.
I think if you have a vague understanding of how Grisha power works, you'll be fine to just read the duology also.
Yeah.
I was quietly laughing because literally last night, Silky and I do this thing, my girlfriend, where we want to watch TV. We look at what's on Netflix and inevitably end up just watching She-Ra again. And last night I was like, this Shadow and Bone show, like it's got a second season. It's, you know, the author, like, and I was like, should we watch it? And she was like, it's a CW show. No. just like that.
You know, Soki knows what she wants.
Yeah, you know what, honestly, she's not even wrong.
Yeah,
she's right.
She's not wrong.
But now I'm like, all right, maybe I'll give it a shot. I mean,
I think I could. I'm trying to figure out like if you would like it as an adaptation if you haven't read the books. And I feel like the answer is maybe. I don't know, because I think what you would really want is more of the queer characters and like the story that is like the center of the story for Six of Crows. And it's not like there's such weird side characters, especially at least in the first season. I think in the second season, from what I've heard, they get more airtime, but like not in a good way.
Like people are, they're like giving the title, like the characters from the title trilogy, Shadow and Bone, less than the Six of Crows. It's like a weird, sneaky way to do Six of Crows, except they're just like pissing off fans of either series by like doing it, like not doing it justice for the characters in either.
Yeah,
it's weird.
Because because they integrated the characters into the main storyline for Shadow and Bone in the first season, which like there's no overlap. That does not ever happen. And because they did that, I think that they're kind of like having to backtrack and figure out how to like make that story still make sense. And it just is not gonna. So I don't know. I haven't watched the second season because I've been really like unmotivated.
Yeah. I think my approach with adaptations has been to just see them as a separate, entirely like it's like just a different thing, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, and you really have to.
Yeah. I mean, I tend to watch more these days. I've been really loving like adaptations of video games. I feel like for some reason that translates better for me. And whereas like book ones, they usually bother me. Like I haven't been able to get myself to watch the Sandman adaptation because I'm so deeply connected to the Sandman comics that I'm just like I'm scared, you know?
Yeah.
But whereas like, you know, The Witcher, I'm like, well, first of all, like the book's like, no, not, and and like, you know, like I'm gonna watch it for the chance to see Yennefer, and they casted her impeccably, and so like I love it, but they're totally different.
Yeah.
I think I'm one of the only people that hasn't watched The Last of Us.
I haven't either.
Really? Okay.
I watched it. We watched it. I think it did well. I think that there is some valid criticism out there that Naughty Dog specifically as a studio does such good narrative rich word that people are like, oh, it's just like the animatics, and I'm like, I mean, that's an adaptation, so yes, that's kind of what it's doing. But I think, you know, when we're talking about queer media, Bella Ramsey, a non-binary actor, Ellie as a character who's gay in a post-apocalyptic world still thriving, I think that's still worthwhile for us to enjoy as queer people, to say again that we're still here.
Yeah.
And as well, like that, I mean, we already kind of touched on this, but like that brings that story into so many more people's lives who otherwise did not experience it, because it's a whole new media. So even if you're just retelling the exact same story with like very few like changes or modifications to it, because the original already is such a good visual like representation of it, it's still putting it in front of so many more people. I mean, that's literally the show that I was talking about earlier with that TikTok that was like, how are you gatekeeping stories in gaming? And I was like,
please play
we
them.
weren't. Please play them.
Try
Like,
video games. They're fun.
yeah.
You
Like
can
you
play
just
video
outed
games.
yourself as somebody who thinks that video games are trite and shooting
Yeah.
pew pew, no story, and you didn't look into it at all. But like, may I introduce you to unpacking? You know, like.
I love
I
it.
love it. Yeah.
Oh, that's amazing. Well, in the interest of time, because somehow we only have 20 minutes left, you know, 'cause I knew that would happen. And I know y'all have stacks this big and probably extra. So I'd love to switch over to some show and tell, which basically what I thought of for this segment was just sharing books that we recommend for one reason or another, books that have meant something to us personally or just are a favorite, books that we return to, and just, you know, sort of, you know, sharing in the magic of giving recommendations of queer books. Like, how fun is that? Like, I just love doing that.
One of my favorite things to do, actually. Anytime somebody is like, I want to read more, can you recommend a book? I'm like, yes, please. Tell me what you enjoy. Tell me what you love. And let me try and pinpoint something that I think would be good for you. Because
I love doing that.
It's just like such a lovely way to kind of like connect with somebody, I think. And yeah, it's one of my absolute favorite things. I'm so excited to like write down everything that you two say because, or I guess, Lilith, did you bring recommendations
I have
too?
a couple, but I listen to myself and I have two. So
Lilith listens to the rules that Lilith
Like, I was good.
I'm gonna have to probably think of some on the fly. I'll try to think of some.
I have a couple that I've already spoken about. We've already kind of talked about Iron Widow and Six of Crows, and those two were both on my list. So I have pared it down already by kind of peppering them in. So hopefully you were all listening. I'm going to start us off with one that I just actually recently read, like at the end of March, called Clap When You Land, by Elizabeth Acevedo. And it is a novel told in verse. So if that sounds really scary to you, let me demystify that. It is basically like, although it's meant to be like spoken word. So I highly recommend the audiobook if you have access to it. I found it at my library. And it's voiced by two different people. Elizabeth Acevedo is one of them, which is fantastic. But it's two characters basically they have the same dad. And then it is kind of the story of grief and identity, and it is the story of like connecting with somebody else and how you kind of like how that can be such a difficult thing, and kind of letting go of what you might think of like the image of somebody in your head. It's very complicated, complex, it's beautifully done, and because it is told in verse, the audiobook narration is like listening to spoken word, but it is completely accessible. It's a novel also, it's a story, so it's not like full of like really lofty imagery that you have to kind of parse, which is sometimes what poetry feels like. So I definitely highly recommend at least consuming it in any way, but if you have access to the audiobook or have been looking to try an audiobook, it is an excellent choice.
Such a good book.
Yeah. Cody, you want to go? Who's going to go?
Yeah, we could do like one of you know, a little bit.
Yeah, do like a round.
Okay, yeah. Let's do the first one that's on my little pile. My little pile.
Tiny pile. My news.
It's like $2. It's $2.
We cut down the
pile. So for me, I actually read this book very recently. It's called Sophie and the Bone Song by Adrian Tooley. And it's also another book where I was just at the Strand in New York, and I was like, that's a pretty cover. And then it was gay. And I was like, yes, let's go. I'm going to buy this. And I think I was telling Lilith to read this recently.
You were. I remember you telling me that exact thing. And I was like, yes, like more of that, more of just like randomly picking up a book and it's gay. Like amazing.
It's the best feeling. But yeah, it's incredible. It's like very centered around music. Like, it's a world where like magic is is only like these things that are written on papers, and the only thing free of magic in this kingdom is music. It's like this kind of pure art form, which like the problematic nature of that comes up throughout the course of the book as well. But it's just like so beautiful and interesting. It does like a bit of a content warning for like an emotionally abusive parent-child relationship being explored throughout it, but it's done in like this really like, it's just done in such a respectful and healthy way, like a character coming to terms with the fact that a relationship that they had maybe wasn't as good as they thought, like, and maybe the other character helping them with that a bit as well. And it's just like, it's just so gay and like really cute and wholesome despite all that. And like I devoured it. This is like one of the best books I've read in the past couple of years. I read it and immediately became obsessed with it. The author has another book called Sweet and Bitter Magic. It's a bit more it's like not quite as complex in some ways, but like I love that. It was just kind of like it was like you knew that the two characters were gonna end up together in the end, and you're just like along for the journey. It's like we've had that with straight people forever, so it's nice to just be like, oh, the character A and character B are definitely gonna, it's a fantasy story with a romance subplot. Yeah. And you're just waiting for them to kiss, and they're both girls, and it's very nice.
Heck yeah.
But yeah, she's awesome, and she makes like folk music, and she made an EP for the book that's called The Bone Songs, and it's beautiful as well. So nice. Very cool.
Oh, that's really neat.
Yeah.
Oh, I love that.
So good.
I brought Improbable Magic for Cynical Witches. It's got tarot. It's got witchy teens. It's got a sort of like cynical teen that doesn't believe in love. And then guess what, guys? She believes in love at the end, maybe.
Spoilers!
Oh no! Turns out she was just gay.
It turns out she was just gay. But yeah, no, we were talking about like messy and just like queerness and coming to terms with your queerness, whatever that might look like. And I think that's a perfect example. It's also YA, so very accessible also. It takes place in Salem, Massachusetts, which I was like, tell me less, like, no.
That's amazing.
Awesome. I love it. We can go to you, Frank, so that because my three books here we could save.
You can't keep up, Lilith.
And I'm trash at thinking of things on the spot.
That's fair. I am going to throw out Thistlefoot by Jenna Rose Nethercott. It is a how do I describe this? It's a retelling of Baba Yaga. And it has chapters that are done in the perspective of the house with the chicken feet. So if you're like familiar with that imagery, the house literally tells parts of the story as a narrator, like a what do they call that? Like the narrators you can't trust, an unreliable narrator.
Unreliable, yes.
That's the word.
I almost said improbable.
Improbable narrator, yeah. So basically, like they're trying to tell a story, but it's about these two twins that are kind of estranged from each other and reconnecting. And then also there is a lovely little like sapphic romance in there that it just like I fell in love with each and every one of these characters. It's such an interesting story. It's such a cool way to retell the story. Also, the cover is fantastic. I have this book. I should have pulled it off my shelf, but the cover is fantastic. It's called Thistlefoot by Jenna Rose Nethercott.
I mean, the word thistle sells me. Like that's just like a sapphic word.
It's very good. It's very, very good. It's such a I don't know. It's just like a really. It was one of the last books that I read last year, and it was a really great way to end out my year.
Love it.
I think it's probably best read in October.
Ooh, I love a recommendation that comes with like a situation to read it in. I love that.
Cody, you, me?
I don't know.
Lilith?
Go ahead.
I don't know. I'll go.
Lilith.
Lilith, you want to go?
Yeah, you go, Lilith.
Fine. Okay. So I don't have this one physically because I read it on my Kindle, but I did mention Nivo already. And The Empress of Salt and Fortune.
Oh, I want to read that.
I credit this book for getting me out of my reading slump. recently. So like my relationship with coming out of a reading burnout has been a lot of starts and stops. And when things started to get a little bit hard in my life, I stopped. And I was like, you know what? Like I need something to escape into right now. It was around the holidays, I think. And I like picked up the book because I had it already and it was short. And so I was like, you know what? I can get please tell me I'm not alone in this. I can get a buzz of like accomplishment by finishing a short book, so that, you know, because I still have those lingering feelings of like when I finish a book, I've accomplished something, and that like helps with my self-worth. Hopefully I'm not alone on that. And so I was like, I'm gonna get a buzz from this because it's short and I can finish it. I consumed the entire novella trilogy in a single weekend, and I could not stop reading it. And I was absolutely consumed by it. And it's this, they're queer, but they're not like that's not the point of any of the novellas. The first one is The Empress of Salt and Fortune. And what I loved the most about it, and what I think absolutely is what made me just really into it, is the way that it's told. So the main character is like explicitly, I don't know if their like identity is non-binary or if it's more relating to their role and like their work, but they are like, they use they them pronouns, and you know, but they are being told stories. They collect stories to archive history. And so it's this very beautiful way of like sort of capturing what it's like to be told a story, and also the importance of, you know, archiving stories and tales, especially like the tales that are not the official tales of history. And I was completely in love with the story, especially the first one. I think the other two were solid follows, but like the first one it just had it all for me. It had like the drama and the emotions, and it was really, really well done. So absolutely recommend Naivo, everything, but also especially The Empress of Salt and Fortune. And the cool thing about them is that you can read them in any order.
Oh, I love that.
I liked reading them in the order that they came out, but I do see you could definitely read them in any order.
Nice.
Cool.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
I'm going back to me because I kind of teased the cover. So this one, I'll actually give you one. This is actually available online as a web comic. This is Cosmonites by Hannah Templar. Book 2 is coming out, I think, in like a month or two. It's from Top Shelf. It's Gays Destroy the Space Patriarchy. I don't have to tell you anything else about that.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, it's got gays of every flavor. It's a Hannah Templar herself is queer. Just wonderful comic. Like I mentioned earlier, Hannah's other book is oh my gosh, now I'm spacing on the name, but she has a story with Grace Ellis where they retell Patricia Highsmith's legacy, basically. Blanking on that. I'm gonna look it up real quick. And that's gonna bother
us googling while
we're flung.
I got so
space.
many tabs open with all these books.
So Hannah's other book is Flung Out of Space. It is Patricia Highsmith's sort of like retelling of her life through the lens of sort of like two creators looking at Highsmith's sort of legacy. So it's both nonfiction, but it's got like creative liberties, is basically what it is. So that's like a double whammy of gay. That's all I'm saying.
Love that. Love a double whammy of gay.
Yeah, so this is also a book that I recommended to Lilith, funny enough. But this book, Youngblood, is, oh my god. It's like, I'd seen it like in the store and I was like, oh, I mean, that's definitely gay, so I'm interested, but I'm not like really a teen vampire person. Like, it's never been a genre I'm that into, so I was like, maybe I'll wait on it. And then my friend, who we share a lot of like sapphic books with each other, was like, okay, I decided to get it. and it's so fucking good. Please read this right now. And it's like vampire boarding school like story, sapphic, like the
Say
I will
less.
say I don't think the cover does justice. No, it's so good. I don't think the cover does justice to this character's kind of like gender. Like I think she is a bit more of a mask identity that is explored a bit in the book. It's like more than you can quite see on the cover, so that's also great in my opinion. But like it just like it really explores like class and stuff like in the vampire society in like this really interesting way. It's so well done, and it does do that whole like one of the characters doesn't know they're gay at the start thing, but it does it in my favorite way, which is when she's like the narrator or whatever. She is so clearly gay. Do you know what I mean? It's not like it's not like falling in love with the other lead makes her gay. It's like the way she looks. She's like assumes she's straight. But she's always been friends with queer people. Classic. And then the way she looks at like her like male classmates versus the female classmates is hilarious. I was like 2 pages into her being at like the vampire boarding school where everybody's hot, and she was like, the guys, they were aesthetically attractive, very perfect. And the girl, she's like, I wanted to worship at their feet. And I'm like, girl, you're a lesbian. It's incredible. She's so fucking gay. It's like one of the best things I've ever read. So really, really recommend it. It's all the characters are so fun, and like the story actually like it really pops off. It's great.
You know what? You have a really amazing way of describing books. I've only ever like you do this, we talk in books about books in DMs and you describe them great like that. But like you like get a podcast, please. Like I would listen.
Books with Cody.
Truly.
I'll do it.
We need you to blurb every book is what it is.
Really?
I'm
you just
happy
make me so hyped to read them, like you make me so hype.
Thank you. It's such good.
What else we got? I see the stacks that you all have.
Who else is like shamefully looking at their stack?
I have The Darkness Outside Us by Elliot Schrafer, which is a sci-fi, primarily sci-fi with a romance pretty heavily in there. But honestly, the big thing about that story is that like how it's told, it does the trope of like the story gets to a certain point and then it restarts basically. And the reason that it restarts is the same every single time, but the way that it develops is so cool. And like, I've not ever seen it done, and it will demolish your heart every single time. And I'm so sorry, but also read it. It's really good. Yeah. I don't have a lot about the plot, but like just prepare to cry because you will.
Thanks.
Lilith, what else you got on your list?
Yeah, let's hear.
So if I had been like all of you and brought a stack, I think it would have just been a stack of Tilly Walden's entire catalog. Because if I, and like we were specifically thinking queer youth here, right? If I had read this book when I was younger, I think that I would have understood and loved myself much earlier. And it's all of that, but it's just a fun story, coming of age in space. I love leaving this world. Please, like anytime I can just not be here, if I can be out in the sky, like repairing spaceships and in like there's a boarding school in space, like you're just living in an entirely different world. But also the art.
Her art is amazing.
It's it's everything. The colors. And the softness of the coming of age and falling in love and self-identity exploration, all these things that is explored, but through like just the most beautiful and inspiring art that I know of. So I think that everyone's my community is sick of me recommending this book, but
Never.
No, never.
It changed me. When you read a book and you're like, I think it actually healed my inner child a bit. So maybe like not to be like, not to be bringing up our inner children here, but like it did, and I think it really stuck with me. And then I went on to read all like everything else, and Spinning, all amazing, incredible, like all of them. So Tilly Walden, you can't go wrong. And there's a tarot deck. Cosmic Slumber Tarot, which I literally use every day. I start my day with it. So
I love that so much. That's been high on my list for a long time. So just climbing every single day.
Yeah, pull it up. Now everybody's shy about the extra books.
I know, and we're running out of time. So is there any maybe each one a last book that you like would want to share with chat before we wrap
that sounds
up?
fair.
Black Sun by Rebecca Roanhorse. I think that one is, if you like fantasy, it is unlike any fantasy I've ever read. It is a like pre-colonial America kind of clans warring kind of moment. It has one of the best morally gray characters I've ever read. And it's gay.
Nice. That's it.
Love it. I'm gonna cheat and do 2 really quick, just because we touched on One Last Stop, so I did want to like formally recommend it. This one is like, it's a bit older. It has steamy scenes in it, so just be warned. I mean, they're nice, but they're there. If that's not your cup of tea. And it's just like this great book. It's like this girl moves to New York City, and then she gets a crush on this girl that she sees on the train every day. And then this is not a spoiler because it's literally on the blurb of the book, so I feel fine saying it. The girl Jane that she's like crushing on is actually like stuck in a time loop on the Q train, and she's just always appears there, and it's kind of just about like I don't know, them like
overcoming the impossible, basically.
Yeah, just to be together. And it's like it's got the perfect amount of like, you know, like drama and stuff happening to like make the story like happen, but like it doesn't really stress you out that bad, because it's one of those books you're reading and you're like, I know the point of this is for it to be a happy queer love story, and it is, and it doesn't disappoint you. It's like you're reading it and you're like, there's no way this is gonna happen, but you know it is, because that's the point of it. It's not like fucking with you. It's not a tragic ending queer story. You know what I mean? It's just so fun. And like for me, I was doing a temp job, and I was in training for a couple weeks, and I unfortunately I live in Upper Manhattan. I had to go to Bay Ridge, deep in Brooklyn. And I was actually like taking the Q train a lot, the week that I was reading this book. So I'd be like on it, like, you know, like going past the stop that they talked about in the book. And I was like, this is awesome. So
that's pretty great.
So you should definitely be commuting on the Q train when you read this. No, I'm kidding. But it's just such a good book. It's really fun. And then on the same note of like, and again, this is me going out of my comfort zone for like queer stories, because I don't really care about realism and magical realism that much normally. But that, and then How to Excavate a Heart by Jake Maya Arlo. It is like just a sickeningly sweet, like toothache inducing like romance book between like 2 college students. Like they're like in DC for like during the winter break basically. And it's also great because for me, I'm Jewish, and it's like I hadn't realized how much it was nice to read Jewish characters and how I never read Jewish characters. But it's a Christmas story. It's like takes place during Christmas, but it's about 2 Jewish girls like falling in love during that time. And Christmas is relevant when you're Jewish because it's everywhere. Yeah. But it's like one of the sweetest things I've ever read. Like, and there's a corgi who's a big part of it. So you should definitely go for the corgi.
I'll also cheat, and I've talked a lot about anthologies today, so my last recommendation is actually going to be Hardwood. It's out of Power and Magic Press. It is actually several creators, and then they're all non-binary centric fantasy comics.
Cool.
So a great way for you to find your next 10 reads, basically. Power and Magic does not mess with any of their books that they put out. Their different collections. So yeah, find your next read. There are tons of us out there creating, putting work out there in comics and prose. Look at a price list too. I was gonna say, lastly, like awards lists are very good to find your next read. The GLAAD Awards just happened, GLAAD. So out of that organization that also helps queer youth, they do awards, and they do a book award every year, and you can find like easily 20 books to read that you'll love and enjoy. So do that. Go read.
Yeah.
Have fun.
Amazing. Exactly. Enjoy it. Well, Frank, did you get to share your last one? Yes, you did, right? Yeah. That sadly brings us to the end. But before we end today's conversation, which literally, I think, just warmed my entire heart. I had so much fun chatting with all of you. You have no idea. I would love it if we could go around and just share, where chat can find you. If you are Babs, where can we read your work, Babs? Because I need to do that. And any of those, let us know where we can find you and support you, because we definitely want to. That goes for all of you.
Yeah.
Hi, Raiders.
Same order as Slash. Frank, go first.
Oh, okay. Hi, I am Frank the Pegasus, or I guess I have been Frank the Pegasus. It will continue to
The artist
be
formerly known as Frank the Pegasus.
that after this. You can find me mostly on Twitch. I have recently changed my schedule because I got a job at the library.
Yeah, the library.
Very fitting. Yeah, we didn't even talk about the library at all, but like
I have a
I
lot
will
to say about
just
libraries.
come by my stream and I will tell you all about how much you should be using your library. I will get on my library soapbox for you. But anyway, I just recently changed my schedule, so I am around Wednesday mornings starting at 9 Central, and then Thursdays at 11, and then Saturday and Sunday at 11 Central. And yeah, mainly on Twitch. I'm on other socials by the same name. So if you care to find me, I am available to you.
Nice. I'm Babs. I'm on the internet as @MustacheBabs. I'm also on the internet at mustachebabs.com, which is where you can find out all about my writing. I am a queer Latina writer creating prose and comics, so come find me. I'm part of the team behind the Cardboard Kingdom, which is sold where books are found everywhere and also available at your local library probably. And I'm
Not
also
you
here
can
on
request
Twitch.
it.
Exactly. Request it from the library. Break the system. Pew pew pew.
I'm doing it. I'm doing it.
But yeah, I'm also here on Twitch on Tuesday afternoons. I play narrative heavy games where I sort of apply my writer lens into it. And then I'm on Twitter yelling about really cool stuff that I do or that my friends do. So come and find me there.
Yeah, and I'm Sarah or Cody Quest on Twitch. I've been kind of with streams because I've been switching jobs, but I mostly do Tuesday evenings. Like to be gay and play RPGs, mostly like Fire Emblem, stuff like that. And then I'm also on Twitter. It's Shadowcoon, SHADOCOON. It's unfortunately not the same name. And also I'm just gay there. And I don't know. I would love to chat with folks. Pop by a stream if you want to, but just lovely getting to speak with all of you, getting to know you too, Frank and Babs, and the chat.
Hey.
Great.
Yeah, back
great
at you.
time.
This has been a
Yeah.
really
Yeah, back
lovely
at you.
discussion.
Yeah.
Props
I
to Lilith for bringing us all together.
Yeah.
Shout out
nothing
Lilith.
makes me happier than like having people that I adore and then bringing them together and they enjoy each other. Like I knew you would, but like you all needed to know each other and now you do.
Yeah.
Also, if you want to have a good time, go to Cody's stream and ask about the gay people in Fire Emblem and you'll be
Heck yeah.
just have so
Cody
much
and I will
fun.
be talking.
Oh yeah, me and my entire community have a lot to say about the gay people in Fire Emblem.
Like paragraphs. And I finally am Lilith. I am an ambassador for this incredible organization, which is the honor of my life. So you can find me here. Next month is my last panel. I'm doing a panel on queer representation in indie games. So we're going to we have some really wonderful folks joining us for that. It is the first Sunday of May, so schedule that in. If you enjoyed today's panel, you will enjoy that one too. And you can also find me on my own Twitch many days a week at 10 a.m. doing comfy things and talking about queer stuff. Thank you to all of the panelists for today. I'm so overjoyed with how this talk was. And I hope everybody enjoys the rest of their Sunday and gets reading.
Yes.
You know,
Yeah.
enjoying queer books is resistance too.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
in the mood
yeah.
for it now.
Yeah, I'm gonna go continue Priory. I cannot wait to report back on that.
Oh, it's so good.
All right, everybody. Bye. Take care. Enjoy the day.
Bye.